Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Welcome, friends. It is Friday, December 28th, 2012. This is Mike Adams sitting in for Alex Jones. You are listening to The Alex Jones Show, and for the next 3 hours, we will be broadcasting live, bringing you the latest red alerts on all fronts. We've got, of course, the First Amendment under attack right now through Facebook and social media censorship. That story, more details will be coming out here today. We've got the Second Amendment under major assault now through Senator Feinstein's efforts to try to confiscate all guns or force you to register your guns with your fingerprints and the serial numbers of all the guns. So gun confiscation is upon us in America today. We've got Alex Jones himself will be in studio in 2.5 hours, but until then, we're going to be interviewing Lenny Magill, the founder of GlockStore.com in California, with his comments on gun confiscation, gun control, Senator Feinstein's, can you even call it a proposal? It's really just a piece of insanity. But anyway, he'll be joining us to talk about that. We've also got Kelly O'Meara, the author of Psyched Out, joining us to talk about the dangers of psychiatric drugs and the links between those psych drugs and violent behavior and school shootings. Turns out most of these shooters are on these psychiatric drugs. And of course, you've heard about the psychiatric industry here on InfoWars before. We're going to go over that in more detail today. Doug Hagmann is also going to be joining us in the third hour today with additional details from the intelligence community. A lot of breaking news is happening there. Yesterday on the show, you heard about ammo stockpiling around the country. The U.S. government, of course, has purchased 1.6 billion rounds of ammunition to be used domestically, including 40 caliber hollow point rounds. That was covered by InfoWars earlier in the year. Those also include sniper rounds that are now being stockpiled. We confirmed yesterday here on the show, stockpiled at ammo depots around the country. And it is now becoming very clear that that ammunition is to be used to kill Americans, to kill American patriots, American veterans, soldiers, and anybody else that the globalists can eliminate by causing a civil war. So on this day, we are facing a very dark future, and we're going to bring you all those details here as the show unfolds. We've also got some other breaking news, and we've also got some solutions. So I know that this is a dark hour for America, but we've got some good news. We've got some solutions. I'll be breaking those down for you as we continue with this show. And by the way, one of those pieces of good news is the fact that Senator Feinstein, by just showing her cards and saying it is about gun confiscation, it is about nationwide gun registration, just like Adolf Hitler did in the 1930s. It is about fingerprinting you and building a government list of who owns your guns. By her putting that out yesterday, now, all of those people who once thought that any talk of gun confiscation was conspiracy theory, they now are awakening. Yes, thank you, Feinstein, for awakening tens of millions of patriots to reality, which is that they are coming for your guns. They're going to destroy your First Amendment, your Second Amendment. The Fourth Amendment is already destroyed thanks to the TSA at the airports. They're coming for everything. So we've got all of that news, plus a lot more straight ahead, including there is teachers in Utah are now being given firearms training to carry concealed weapons to help protect children in the schools there in Utah. We've got also, check this out, the dead body of Adam Lanza, the supposed shooter at Sandy Hook, is now being harvested by scientists to create DNA profiling so that you can be labeled evil if you share DNA with that shooter. That's how insane things are getting now in America. All of that news, much more, plus those guests and your calls coming up right here on The Alex Jones Show. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this break with all those details and much more. Stay with us. All right, welcome to The Alex Jones Show. This is Friday, December 28th, 2012. Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, editor of naturalnews.com, filling in for Alex today for the first 2.5 hours. Alex will be joining us, taking over the studio. It is his studio, so he'll be here in 2.5 hours to continue the show and go into overdrive. And he's going to be interviewing Doug Hagmann during that segment, and also offering some additional commentary. Now, obviously, if you're just joining us, we are at red alert levels everywhere. Across America, the assault on our liberties, our freedoms, our Constitution, our Bill of Rights is intense. It has never been more intense. The situation has never been more dire, but there is a real justification for hope for solutions, because so many Americans are already armed, and I mean law-abiding Americans, police officers, returning military veterans, active duty veterans, farmers, ranchers, Second Amendment supporters, competition shooters, people who just enjoy the hobby of shooting. They are armed like never before. And in fact, one of the most important realizations in all of this is that since the Sandy Hook shooting, which itself has all sorts of questions, for example, there's a video we're going to run later, guys, show news announcing that the AR-15 Bushmaster was actually left in the car, wasn't even involved in the shooting. So that hoax that this was a, quote, assault rifle massacre, we're going to expose that right here. It was actually carried out with handguns, not AR-15s. But one of the things that happened in the aftermath of that shooting is that it looks like about 10 million firearms are newly in possession of law-abiding American people since that shooting, because there was such a mad rush to go out and buy AR-15s, to go out and buy bolt-action rifles and handguns and shotguns and everything you can imagine. So the media, by hyping this up and engaging in their emotional fear manipulation campaign, they have actually succeeded in arming America to the teeth, which is good. It's good for patriots because it means more distribution of power, less of a risk of a monopoly of violence in the hands of the government alone. We've got more firearms in the hands of people, and also ammunition. Have you noticed that you can't buy magazines or ammunition now just about anywhere? Try all the online websites, Ammo to Go, Midway USA, Brownells, all the sites, Cabela's, you name it, they're all completely wiped out of virtually every piece of ammunition that existed in the supply line, which means that, and by my estimates, by the way, 10 million firearms were sold and 1 billion rounds of ammo were put in the hands of law-abiding citizens all across America. Now, the government, of course, has stockpiled 1.6 billion rounds of ammo over the last year or so. And that's been covered here on InfoWars. And most of those rounds are designated for domestic use against the American people. So now we know, thank you, Feinstein, for showing your cards. Now we know what that ammo is truly for. It's not a conspiracy theory to say they're coming after your guns. It's not a conspiracy theory to say that ammunition is being stockpiled to be used against the American people. We now know that that is fact, because those are hollow point rounds. You can't use them in wartime. It's a violation of the Geneva Convention. They're mostly 40 caliber hollow points, which is not even used by most soldiers. They tend to use 9mm, for example, NATO sizes, NATO calibers. And they also include sniper rounds. So here's a cartoon that we just released last night, Counterthink cartoon. I'm the creator of that series. But the cartoon is called Guns Are Bad. Now, I know those of you listening on the radio can't see this, but you can, I believe this is posted on Infowars.com. But let me just describe it to you. It's got Obama standing on top of a massive pile, a massive mountain of firearms and guns and ammo boxes labeled DEA, TSA, ATF, DHS, and other agency names. And it's got Obama pointing down from his mountain of firearms, pointing down at a farmer holding a ranch rifle, screaming, "Guns are bad." So this cartoon, which obviously I encourage you to just share this, post it anywhere you want, get the message out there. This shows the hypocrisy of the government saying, well, you can't have guns. You, the people, can't have guns because we have them all. We want to have them all. We have 1.6 billion rounds of ammo. We have all the advanced weaponry and full auto firearms in the hands of government, even though most American citizens only own semi-auto firearms. So the government already has a great imbalance of power in that realm of firearms, but it wants to make that complete. Hence the gun confiscation. Now, do you guys have that video ready about that assault rifle being left in the car? All right, let's run that because I want to get this point out there. This shooting in Sandy Hook was not carried out with a Bushmaster AR-15. It was carried out only with handguns. And why are there 4 handguns? Because there were at least 2 people, folks. I'm telling you, human beings don't have 4 arms unless you're eating genetically modified corn. You can't fire 4 handguns all at once. It's almost proof that there was more than one shooter involved. But let's go ahead and roll that video. It's only a minute and something. Go ahead. Let's take a look.
Pete Williams, our Chief Justice correspondent, has got some new information as well. Pete, good morning.
Matt, good morning to you. This continues to be a very complex investigation.
NBC
and there's
News.
A lot of contradictory information out there, but there is some new information this morning from a couple of federal officials and state officials. They say now that there were actually 4 handguns recovered inside the school, not just 2, as we were initially told. 4 handguns, and apparently only handguns that were taken into the school. We knew that Adam Lanza, the man said to be the gunman here, also had a assault-style, AR-15 style rifle that he had taken to the school that was in the car he drove there, his mother's car.
In the car.
But we've been told by several officials that he left that in the car. We're also told
there you go. That's all we need to hear. He left the AR-15 in the car. It was not used in the shooting. That right there from NBC News. And there you go. But that's never going to be talked about in the mainstream media ever again, because they've decided to go with the lone gunman theory and the AR-15 Bushmaster theory so that people like Feinstein, the most wretched, evil witch to ever set foot on the floor of the U.S. Senate, in my opinion, so that she can then call for the mass disarmament of the American people, first starting with gun registration, and then, of course, inevitably ending up in gun confiscation. Now, there is a new petition that has been launched by InfoWars to try Dianne Feinstein for treason. Paul Joseph Watson has the story now posted on Infowars.com. The latest White House petition garnering attention demands that Senator Feinstein be tried in federal court for treason against the Constitution, for her role in introducing legislation that would go a long way to repealing the Second Amendment. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I urge you to go to Infowars.com. This is the top article, and you need to sign this petition. Don't be afraid of signing the petition thinking, oh, they're going to find out who we are. They already know who you are, okay? They've got all your tax records, all your property records, all your instant background NICS, FBI gun purchase records. They've already got that. Sign the petition, send a message. Now, obviously, they're probably, at least in this administration, never going to charge Feinstein for treason. But just having a lot of people sign the petition makes waves throughout the media. And if there is a collapse and a new society that comes out of it, perhaps a new society based on the Constitution, imagine that, then it is very feasible that people like Feinstein could be tried for treason, and that others who are involved in the deliberate destruction of the Second Amendment and the Bill of Rights could be arrested and prosecuted for their crimes against the American people and the Constitution. So this is not simply theater. This is a very serious issue. And anyone who goes out like Feinstein and attempts to destroy the Second Amendment and the Bill of Rights and take away these freedoms and liberties that the American people have fought and died for in previous generations, those people that try to take these rights, in my view, they are criminals. And they need to be arrested and tried for their crimes against America. Now, getting back to the shooting, the DNA of the Sandy Hook killer, Adam Lanza, is now being harvested from his dead body to, you're not going to believe this. You're not going to believe this. This is off the charts. They're going to take his DNA and they're going to then genetically profile everyone that they can then label as being a future killer if they share any DNA with Adam Lanza. You got that? They're going to harvest DNA from his dead body and use it to label you a potential future killer if you have common genetic traits. That is a story from Mail Online in the UK, and scientists are working on this. Again, this is the kind of tyranny we are dealing with. So now, not only are all gun owners supposedly evil, but if you even share a genetic code with Adam Lanza, and the point is that 99.8% of all human genetic code is identical anyway. So you already share genetic code with Adam Lanza. Senator Feinstein shares genetic code with Adam Lanza, and probably some lizard people as well. Let's get David Icke to comment on that. But for sure, she shares genetic code with Adam Lanza, as do you, as does every human being on the planet. So this is the latest example of scientific tyranny, scientific dictatorship, to be able to say that anyone could be a future killer. This is pre-crime. These are thought crimes. The hammer is being dropped like just out of a dystopian sci-fi fiction film, where if you are even born with some of this DNA, you are immediately labeled a terrorist and you could be sent to prison just based on your genetic profile. That's what America has come to. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more right here on The Alex Jones Show. Listen up, folks. This is The Alex Jones Show. Mike Adams, the health ranger, filling in for Alex today, wearing the InfoWars bullhorn shirt. Hope you can see that there. For those of you watching on Prisonplanet.tv, they have a great selection of shirts in the warehouse back there. Go to InfoWars store. It's InfoWarsStore.com, right? Yeah. Okay, InfoWarsStore.com, where you can find all this great gear. Now, This is the most important segment that I'll probably talk about today. Listen, we have a solution for some of this, but to understand that, we got to talk about the Facebook censorship that happened yesterday. Facebook has gone on a massive purge of all political speech that it does not agree with. This is a shutdown, a disabling of dozens of accounts of people who are posting political speech, the Bill of Rights, Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. I think their account was shut down yesterday. Now, some of these accounts may be back on, including ours is back on today. But we were given a final warning, too, after posting our Gandhi quote, which made news yesterday. Where's my Gandhi quote? Anyway, I'll find it. But the Gandhi quote, oh, you have it right there. Thank you. Here it is. We posted this picture of Gandhi saying this, quote, "Among the many misdeeds of British rule in India, history will look upon the act depriving a whole nation of arms as the blackest." And, of course, by that he means the darkest. It's not about color. That quote got us suspended on Facebook. And we were just locked out. And I couldn't believe it. And then it turns out there was a massive purge taking place all throughout the day of other accounts, 9/11 Truthers, InfoWars, writers, and employees. Most of their accounts got disabled, suspended, deactivated, or shut down. The truth is, what's coming, folks, is far worse. I believe there's going to be a day where Google will purge all websites that support the Second Amendment. That's I don't know for sure. That's just my belief that they are probably going to do that. I believe that even Twitter, which has so far recognized free speech, may shut down the speech of those who advocate gun ownership, lawful, legal gun ownership, in the hands of law-abiding citizens who complete background checks. I believe that there is a massive crackdown. Domain names are going to be seized. DNS is going to be taken over by the UN. So there's a solution to that, and this is my red alert message to all programmers, to even hackers, even members of hacking communities that believe in liberty and freedom and underground information. This is my message to you. We need to build a peer-to-peer news and content distribution system without a centralized server. I've already spec'd out this project, and I can help oversee this project, and I can help promote it, and there is a revenue stream in it for anyone who can build this. It has to use port 80 traffic to look like regular HTTP web traffic. I'm not going to get too technical here, but I'm just throwing that out there. It has to, again, not be centralized, and it will have different channels. And all of the patriot and freedom-oriented websites and individuals will be invited to have their own channels on the system, including people like Steve Quayle, Doug Hagmann, Gerald Celente, Max Kaiser, and obviously InfoWars and Natural News and others in that same realm. Maybe even Drudge would want to use it. If you can build this, send an email to this address, p2p@naturalnews.com, okay? P2P, peer-to-peer. p2p@naturalnews.com. Get that email address out there. Send your contact information to us if you can build this or if you have a team who can build this. We can provide a small amount of seed money for this, but the real revenue stream will come when this is built and launched. Because again, why is this a red alert? Why does this matter to everybody listening? They're going to shut down all the social networking of people who support the Second Amendment and the Bill of Rights and liberty in America. They are going to seize the websites. There will be a day, trust me, when Infowars.com will be seized and shut down. That day is coming. There'll be a day when Natural News will be seized and shut down. We must have an alternate method to be able to reach people without going through the UN-controlled domain name server system. This peer-to-peer technology is the way to do it. And I founded and grew a software company in the past to a multi-million-dollar company that even sold to many Fortune 500 companies. I know technology, I know how to build this, and I know there are people here in this studio right here in InfoWars who can help with this. Get the word out. Again, p2p@naturalnews.com if you can help build this system. Now with this, we will have an unstoppable, non-censorable channel to get out information even during martial law. We will be able to get the word out to patriots. We will be able to get the truth out even as the White House is spreading lies and the mainstream media is spreading lies, which is virtually all it does these days. This is the solution. We can make this work. Stay with us. Much more straight ahead here on The Alex Jones Show, including an upcoming interview with Lenny Magill from Glockstore.com about the gun control measures put forth by the wicked Feinstein.
We're
Stay
on the
with
march.
us. And we're back on The Alex Jones Show here on this Friday, broadcasting live December 28th, 2012. This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, filling in for Alex. I got to change my nickname, guys, I think, because I pretty much just write about liberty now. I think I got to be like the Liberty Ranger or something. Health is great. It's a great topic. But if we don't have liberty, we don't have health. And this is something that even some of my own readers don't understand yet. Most of them do, but a few don't. Look, if you want to have health freedom, if you want to have farm freedom and food freedom where you can buy raw milk, let's say, without being arrested, or where you can say no to their deadly aluminum, MSG, mercury-laden vaccines without being arrested and forcefully injected at gunpoint, you got to have liberty, all right? Look, the Second Amendment is what makes possible every other freedom, including health freedom, medical freedom, food freedom, farm freedom, everything. So I'm gonna have to get a new nickname, I guess. Liberty something. All right, other news. Well, first of all, if you're just joining us, sign the petition to try Dianne Feinstein for treason. All right, that's up on Infowars.com right now. This creature, who is an admitted enemy of America, an enemy of the United States Constitution and the Bill of Rights, she is following in the footsteps of Adolf Hitler, probably her role model, to start with gun registration, and then once the government has a list of everybody who owns a gun, they will of course have gun confiscation. Because you know how this will work? It's very simple. First of all, when this is being debated in the Senate, and that's coming up, they will simply stage another school shooting during the debate to drive home the votes. That's easy for them to do. Pull off another staged shooting or another staged bombing of a government building like Oklahoma City. And then everybody will vote for the gun registration law. So then all the Americans who are running around on this guilt trip because suddenly they feel guilty for the actions of one lone nut somewhere, which wasn't even probably his doing. It was probably a government group that did it. All these people will go ahead and register their guns and their serial numbers and their home addresses. So then the government will have this massive list. Oh, here's a list, a big database of everybody who owns a gun and exactly where they live and exactly what they own. Well, then the government will stage another shooting. And at that point, people like Michael Moore, the self-propelled food processing slug, will say, oh, we already have a list of all the gun owners. Let's just have everybody now turn them in. Gun confiscation. And anybody who doesn't turn them in will just be labeled a terrorist. And there you go. That's how it happens. That's how it happened in Australia. That's how it happened in Ireland. That's how it happened similarly in Nazi Germany. And that's what's slated for America. But going against that, now helping to resist some of that madness, is none other than Sheriff Arpaio, who is, of course, famous for investigating Obama's fake birth certificate. It's such a bad forgery. It's so bad. If I applied for a bank loan and submitted a document with that level of bad forgery, I would be arrested for a felony document forgery crime. Believe me, it is so bad that the American people can't see that is just amazing. But anyway, Sheriff Arpaio is sending an armed posse to protect schools. Finally, somebody in America is sending armed men to protect the children in the schools. And even better, where's that news article? Darren McBreen found this today. Here it is. In Utah, let me get the right one here. Here it is. In Utah, they are giving concealed carry training to Utah teachers who are going to get special firearms training and be allowed to carry concealed weapons in their classrooms. Imagine that. Imagine being able to shoot back. Oh, my goodness. Look, the truth is, these school shooters, even when they are actually, young kids who've been doped up on psychiatric drugs and who've been playing too many video games, and they go in and actually shoot people, even when that happens, these kids commit suicide the minute they see somebody with an armed defense. They shoot themselves the moment a cop appears. And if a teacher just pulled out, a Glock 19 or whatever, just pulled out a Glock 26, even a 9mm, and just started blasting away at one of these shooters, the shooter would just turn around and kill himself instantly. The massacre is over. Done. Children's lives would be saved. Turn that school into a two-way shooting range is what you do. Two-way ranges don't last very long. Now, we've got actually an expert on all of this joining us now here on the Alex Jones Show. His name is Lenny Magill. He is the founder of Glockstore.com and based in California. He is an outspoken advocate of lawful firearms ownership. Many of his customers are law enforcement and military. And he's made many videos, YouTube videos and DVDs, and is really knows his stuff. He's an expert marksman himself. And I've watched many of his videos. He's a very, very well-informed guy. And now he is living in California, the realm of Feinstein, the wicked witch of the West, who is now trying to take our firearms. Lenny, welcome to the Alex Jones Show.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here. And sorry, I'm a little bit late. The phones are just going crazy, and our phone lines literally we can barely get a line out, much less a line in. So it's been very, very busy. Yeah.
I figured that was the case. Our producers were trying to get a hold of you and couldn't get through. But now that you know what's going on, well, first of all, tell us, what are people calling you? What are they hammering you with today? What are all the calls about?
Everybody's in a panic situation to try to buy a firearm and or a high-capacity magazine now, before anything happens, before any legislation comes about. So, in essence, what they've done, this government regulation is done, and hopefully you didn't hear all that, but hopefully they're stimulating, all these people who always thought about buying a gun, always thought about it, but never really did until now the government says, oh, you can't have one. Yeah, so the sales are just off the charts.
That's absolutely true. I remember, you may not even know, I'm a customer of your store. I actually purchased a Glock from you many months ago, and even then there was quite a wait time just because you do a lot of custom work. But what happened after the media started calling for gun grabbing? What is your wait time now if somebody tries to order a custom Glock from you today?
Well, we sell them both as a normal gun, just the standard gun itself, and we also do the custom work to them as well. The standard guns, we've still have a fair supply of those. They are running very tight. So we can usually ship those out within 2 to 3 days. The custom guns are anywhere from 4 to 6 or 8 weeks.
Oh, well, that's not bad these days, because I was talking to a gun shop here in Texas the other day, a gun manufacturer, very well known. Well, I'll just tell you, LaRue Tactical.
Sure, yeah.
You know, great, really high-end firearms. And I was asking them what was their wait time on firearms that were ordered, last week. And they told me, our only promise is that we're going to try to get all of the 2012 orders fulfilled by the end of 2013.
Yeah, no, the sales numbers went off the charts literally last week, and the phone has not stopped, and the orders have not stopped. So, this pending legislation is creating a panic and a panic buying spree that we've never seen before in the industry.
Well, it's actually even achieving another form of gun control, because right now the wait time for a rifle is probably 6 months. I mean, effectively.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. This is the challenge with this whole legislation is, if anything really does come to pass and new laws are enacted and draconian laws, not much less, they're going to create this amazing, unbelievable, sinister black market for the same products. It's not going to go away. And it's going to create more crime and more criminals, and everybody's going to be a criminal one way or another.
Yeah, it's like prohibition, but against guns. Yeah, you're only going to create a black market. You're going to have more violence, just like the Mexican drug gangs with the marijuana criminalization. I don't really even know where you stand on that issue, but the drug war has not been successful, and it's turned a lot of innocent people into criminals and filled the prisons.
Well, and a lot of people have died, and it certainly hasn't decreased demand and or availability in a sense. Really, it's a terrible shame. And this is what's going to happen with the same thing with these laws. They think they're going to pass it. They think it's going to really do something. That's not even the problem with this whole thing. It's such an oppressive government action. First we're faced with taxes, and then all these. California this year in 2013, there's 800 new laws. 800 more laws, that literally anybody could be a criminal for just anything, at this point. That's 800 laws on top of everything else. It's
insane. And have you read Senator Feinstein's proposal for her dream list of gun control measures?
I did read over it, and it's hard to believe that, she feels that this is going to be the answer, because what we're seeing with these mass murders in the last year, even, you've got the guy in Colorado at the theater, you've got the kid out there in Tucson, and of course you've got this terrible tragedy up in Connecticut, is that every one of those people were diagnosed as mentally ill in some way or another. Every one of them were seeing a psychiatrist or psychologist,
yes.
And every one of them were being prescribed these psychopsychotic drugs that have a side effect of rage, aggression, suicidal, and homicidal thoughts.
Oh, you just nailed it. But that's the issue that the mainstream media won't talk about. They don't want to talk about mental health. They don't really want to talk about the psychiatric drugs and their links to violent outbursts, or the fact that most of these firearms were actually stolen to be used in the crimes. It's not like, in fact, Adam Lanza was denied the ability to purchase a rifle multiple times.
Exactly. So the laws are working, but what's really the crime is the fact that these pharmaceutical companies are making billions of dollars selling these drugs, and they know the side effects, they know the problems, and they don't publicize it because they control the lobbyists with these billions of dollars, and they control the media. If you watch the mainstream network news, anybody can watch it. This is not, a conspiracy theory. Watch the news. How many advertisements are on the CBS, NBC, and ABC News nightly newses that are pharmaceutical related?
Oh, yeah.
It's over 50%. And they're telling you about drugs you need to take for diseases you didn't know you had.
Well, diseases that don't even exist.
Right.
Social anxiety disorder, whatever. That's where you feel nervous if you're posting on Facebook. You need a drug for that.
Let me tell you this. My father's a doctor, and my brother's a doctor, so I'm very familiar with the medical community. And my brother's married to a psychiatrist. Her number one thing is to prescribe drugs. That's it. And that's what they do. They don't try to cure anything. They just manage it nowadays.
Yeah, you're well informed, man.
They manage these people with drugs, and they get them on drugs for life. And that's what the pharmaceutical companies are proposing and pitching to these kids these young people in medical school. Is, hey, it's just, get them on the drugs and everything will be fine.
Well, no, what's
what we're seeing is this backlash of these people who are unmanageable.
And every time there is a school shooting, they create trauma in another 100 kids, which they then diagnose with disorders and put them on psychiatric drugs. So you have this continuing multiplication of drugs and violence, and the drug companies are making money from the whole thing. And people like Feinstein are using the dead bodies of these children as capital to pass their Adolf Hitler-inspired gun confiscation laws. It's insane.
It's totally insane, and I think the main thing that people, the citizens, the public has to be aware of, that I don't believe that any of these mass shootings have occurred without the presence of these drugs in the system of the perpetrator.
Good point.
I mean, Columbine is a great example. Those guys were on these drugs.
Oh, yeah.
And every one of these three people we talked about, Tucson, the theater in Colorado, and this latest guy, absolutely are all on psychotic drugs. So the real problem, I believe, is the way we're managing these mental health patients. When I was a kid, and I'm 55 years old, wasn't that long ago. When I was a kid, there were state hospitals that they put these people into to get them away from society so they wouldn't injure or interfere with society, the people in society, and they would also protect themselves.
No, they want them running loose now because they can use violence to achieve their political agendas. Folks, if you just tuned in, we're talking with Lenny Magill, the founder of Glockstore.com. And he just said they've still got some Glocks available. So if you want to get some, go to Glockstore.com. And, of course, obviously, you can't order guns online. I mean, you can't. They just won't ship them to you. You got to ship to your FFL dealer. That's another liberal media lie that you can just buy guns online. No, you have to pick it up at your local FFL dealer. But you can still get Glocks at Glockstore.com. Now, I want to give out the 800 number for callers. And Lenny, I hope you're up for taking a few calls and questions. Let me give that number out, 800-259-9231. Again, 800-259-9231. So go ahead and load up the phone queue, guys. When you can do that, let me know. And, I see the board right here. So, Lenny, what is the mood now? The people that you're talking to there in California, what is the consensus of this Feinstein gun control measure, and what level of support or resistance is there to it?
Well, obviously it's pretty early to tell, but I would say this, that yesterday in our retail store, we have a retail outlet here in San Diego, we were 5 deep. A friend of mine called me from Pasadena, and he was at Turner's Outdoorsman, which is another big retailer, and he said, hey, I'm waiting in line. I've been here for 2 hours waiting to talk to someone.
Wow.
And this is a retail store. Now, obviously, just imagine that, that you're waiting in line for 2 hours at a retail store, and the counter is right there, and there's 12 people in front of you, and everybody's got questions, and he's in line for 2 hours, and he's trying to buy an AR-15. And he said, he called me, he said, do you have anything? I said, no, all of our AR-15s are sold out. He said, what should I do? I said, well, if you buy the first one you see, because there's just not any available. So
yeah.
The mood is panicking. The mood is frenzied. As far as what we can do as citizens, this is the challenge, because you really have a small group of people dictating legislation upon us that really are not. You have to ask yourself: are they looking out for the big picture, or is this a knee-jerk reaction to this tragedy up in Connecticut, or is there a sinister side of this that we don't even comprehend, because we can't imagine that our elected officials would be sinister?
I can imagine that pretty easily. That's
because in reality, this is the first step. The disarmament of the people is the first step to control and control people. And so, then you look at these tax things that are happening right now, the fiscal cliff and all this other stuff, and you have to ask yourself, what's going on here? I mean, what's at play? Because the government feels like that your money is their money, and that they decide that they can give you a little bit back. And that doesn't make sense. It's all
well, of course, it's total hypocrisy. Plus, Senator Feinstein, she's got her own armed guards, and all of these people have their own armed guards. Hey, Obama's children go to school in a school with 11 armed guards. That doesn't even count Secret Service. And Obama's now even on the record saying he wanted to become president so that his daughter could be surrounded by men with guns. So why do they need?
Understand that, and that's the total, hypocrisy of that. Of course, the president, children should be surrounded by armed guards. Obviously, that's good.
All right, Lenny, stay on the line with us, Lenny. We got to go to break, but we're going to come back and take calls. We've got Larry, Sean, Baron, I remember his name. He called before. Coming up after this break, so stay with us. We'll be right back with more calls for Lenny Magill from GlockStore.com. More questions and comments on gun control in America. Stay with us.
This is Alex Jones with 5 good reasons you should consider.
We're back here on the Alex Jones Show. Thank you for joining us live on this Friday, December 28th, 2012. This is the Alex Jones Show, and we're interviewing Lenny Magill of GlockStore.com. And this is Mike Adams filling in for Alex, obviously. But hey, Alex is here, and he will be joining us at 1:30 Central Time with a major announcement. So a very big announcement. So stay tuned for that. You don't want to miss it. Alex will be right here in the studio at that time. He'll also be interviewing Doug Hagmann at that time.
Doing a 4th hour overdrive.
Here he is popping in. 4th hour overdrive. All right. Awesome. Good to see you, Alex. I never see Alex because when I'm here hosting, he's not here. So it's good to actually see you, man. Anyway, Lenny, you still on the line with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. Let's go to Larry in Michigan, who's been holding. Larry, we don't screen your calls, but go ahead, sir, with your question for Lenny Magill hopefully on gun control.
Well, it is. And I want to know, do you guys think this is another Fast and Furious deal? This over on the East Coast, they give out the name of weapon holders and name and address so people can go break into their house, steal more guns, and that's another reason to take our guns away.
Yeah, that's true. They're treating gun owners almost like child predators or something, and posting them on the internet. What are your thoughts, Lenny?
Well, yeah, that's a disturbing fact and trend is to paint a gun owner as a nut or as a crazy person or as a psycho lunatic type, and which is quite the opposite. We see nowadays the type of people who are buying firearms are women in their 50s, judges, lawyers, doctors, professional people, construction workers. It's across the board. It's not the stereotype of the guy in camouflage fatigues buying a firearm. That's over. People buying firearms are mainstream, normal family people who want to be able to protect themselves against the hordes of people who will be storming their doors when the government checks stop going to them.
Oh, yeah, it's moms and grandmas and aunts and uncles, too. A lot of women are buying guns today. Are you seeing that, too?
That's exactly what we're seeing, and we're getting calls from people, who never had a firearm before and say, you know what, I want to get one now, and now's the time. I want to do it right now.
And the secret is, in the liberal community, the secret is most liberals want guns for themselves. They just don't want guns for everybody else.
Well, they have them for themselves.
They do have them, yeah.
Guns. She already has. She has them registered to her. It's a fact. She has guns. It's just that, I'm more responsible than you are. That's what she's saying.
Yeah. Well, hey, she's got, I guess, the genetic code granted by the globalists or something. Maybe she's got royal blood or reptilian blood circulating through her veins.
There you go. That's a scary thought. But here's something I think we need to put on the table right now. The only way to get out of this mess is to call for term limits for all offices. We need to limit the amount of time these people spend in these powerful positions because power corrupts.
Yes.
And we're all human. And so that's what needs to be done. We cannot let these people be lifetime politicians and become perverted in their thoughts and their ways. And that's exactly what we're seeing in Feinstein, and exactly what we're seeing these, Dick Durbins and all these other career politicians. They come up with these crazy thoughts because they're not citizens anymore.
No, they live the lifestyle of control freaks and gun grabbers, and they think that only they have the right to be protected. Okay, but thank you for your call, Larry. Very good question. Let's go to Baran. Stay on the line, all right? We'll come to you right after this break. And Lenny, please stay with us as well. We're going to continue into the next hour with Lenny Magill, an owner of a large Glock retailer in California, GlockStore.com. This is Mike Adams filling in for Alex today, who will join us at 1:30 with a major announcement here on the Alex Jones Show. So don't go away and don't miss that announcement. Come right back. We've got a lot more straight ahead right here on the Alex Jones Show. Welcome back. We are into the second hour. Thanks for joining us here on the Alex Jones Show. This is Mike Adams filling in. And we're on the phone with Lenny Magill, the owner of GlockStore.com, and we've got callers on the line. The topic of discussion today is, of course, gun control, the Second Amendment, the Bill of Rights, and are we going to let elitists like Senator Feinstein, who has her own concealed handgun, tell us that we can't have concealed weapons because we're the little people? Yeah, you're just the American sheeple. You can't be allowed to protect yourself or your children. Only the privileged elite can protect their lives and their families and their children. So let's go to another caller. Baran from Alabama, you are on the line. Go ahead, sir.
Thanks for taking my call. I called the last time that you were in hosting.
Yes, I remember. And did I get your name right this time?
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Awesome.
I run WTFRLY.com. I don't know if you'd been there yet, but the reason I called was because you said something that stuck out to me. And I just said this the other day, that basically guns are going to become the new drugs, in that black market mantra. And what I had discussed with someone else was that there's a video game, I think it's called 2033, something like that. But basically the new currency became ammo because at that point there was really no more ammo in the scenario that took place. And there were a lot of homemade bullets running around, but the currency became ammo.
Yeah, well, ammo is infinitely barterable, and those are good points. But since Lenny's our guest right now, do you have a question for Lenny?
Specifically, I want to know, how do we kind of counteract this meme, because there's a lot of racism charges being thrown around, and I've personally been in a gun store here, one of the biggest gun dealers in the nation, and it never fails. Every time you go in there, there's people of all races in there, all ages, both sexes. Yeah. And that narrative has to be counteracted somehow. I wanted to suggest maybe making some kind of video to kind of illustrate the ridiculousness of it.
All right, let me throw that to Lenny. How do we show gun owners as the responsible, law-abiding, community-minded citizens that they truly are?
Well, that's a great question. No one really wants to be profiled, I guess, as a gun owner today. I mean, most people I know are pretty stealthy about it. They have a gun and they basically will, take it home and put it in a safe and just have it, and they don't advertise it. Many people are not running down the street with a rifle rack in the back of the shotgun or back of the pickup truck anymore.
Well, you should go visit Arizona.
How would we present people as normal people? That's a great question, because, like I said, and like I think your caller's saying, is we are seeing that the people who are purchasing firearms, the people who are buying firearms now, are your mainstream American. And they're white, black, brown, red. They're all the colors. I mean, there's no difference there. It's just a matter of, hey, I want to have an opportunity, and I want to have the ability to protect myself against either the government or a bad guy. And I need a firearm to do that, because, hey, bottom line is that's where firearms were invented, to protect yourself against the bad guy crashing your door down, who may be 6'4", 300 pounds.
That's good answer, Lenny, and good question, Baran. Thank you for your call today. And Lenny, is there some coalition of gun rights groups that might be putting together, a video response or PSAs to tell the real story about how gun owners are responsible citizens, members of society, like you said, judges, lawyers, moms and dads, law-abiding citizens?
It's interesting. Now we have, a great medium to, get a message out, which would be a YouTube video, because obviously, YouTube is still open and free.
No, but they're going to shut that down, man. There's been more censorship coming, and Facebook's already dropped the hammer, shutting down accounts of people who talk about gun rights. It happened yesterday.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Stay with us. A lot more straight ahead. We'll be right back. Stay with us, please, Lenny. We'll be right back after this break with more calls and more from Lenny Magill at GlockStore.com. We're here on The Alex Jones Show. We'll be right back.
Sick of the globalist eugenicist control.
Welcome back to The Alex Jones Show. We are into the second hour on this Friday, December 28th, 2012. I am pumped up. I can hardly wait for that liner to get done so we can get back to calls. The topics today are mind-blowing. We've got a petition up to try Senator Dianne Feinstein for treason. That petition is up at Infowars.com right now. We've got the Facebook censorship shutdown of all pro-gun, pro-Second Amendment speech that happened yesterday, where they banned our account for quoting Gandhi. Yeah, Gandhi was not the pacifist that you've been told. He actually supported armed defense against tyranny and oppression. And so did Martin Luther King, by the way, who owned his own arsenal of weapons and actually applied for a concealed carry permit. Martin Luther King knew that people were trying to kill him, and he was right, and that's why he needed a gun, as do we all, because it's an uncertain world. We, law-abiding citizens, want to have the right to keep our children, our families, and our communities safe using the laws of physics and highly accelerated pieces of lead, which is the great equalizer among men, women, and even grandmothers everywhere. And with us today to give us additional comments on that is Lenny Magill from Glockstore.com. We're also taking calls. And just to give you a quick preview, coming up later this hour, we've got another guest, Kelly O'Meara, the author of a book, Psyched Out, who is an expert on the side effects of psychiatric drugs and their relationships to school shootings. So don't miss that. And finally, also in the next hour, Alex Jones is here in studio with a major breaking announcement that you won't want to miss. Believe me, he's already told me what it is, and it's big. And you don't want to miss that. But continuing with Lenny Magill now, and thank you for continuing with us, Lenny. This will be the, we'll just have you through this segment, which is a long segment, but let's go back to callers. Sean in California, you are on the air. Thank you for joining us, and do you have a question for Lenny?
Hey, Mike, thanks for taking my call. This is Sean. I actually worked on the Dumb and Lazy video with you.
Oh, awesome, man. Thank you. Great.
Yeah, how's it going? Yeah, I'm a big Alex Jones fan, and, you as well. So anyway, I think a lot of the anti-gun advocates, especially on my friends on Facebook, I think it's a lot of misinformation. First, they don't even know what an assault weapon is.
True.
They're just really great blogs that I think it's Contradictions with a K, and he goes down with a list of these evil items like a shroud, and all that does is, protect from the heat. So when you present this type of information to them, it really exposes them as people that are against your Second Amendment rights, because that's what they want in the end, because they begin the conversation with, we need to start talking about guns, but they don't actually, in the end, they want to take away your guns.
Well, and they're just freaked out by scary-looking guns, which to them is any gun that has a black polymer stock or vertical rails anywhere. It's just a scary-looking gun. You're right. They don't know much about guns. But do you have a question, Sean, for Lenny?
Yeah, Lenny. My question was, Feinstein is proposing a ban on any handgun that can accept more than 10 rounds, and that's basically all Glocks. So, what are you doing to fight that, and do you think that this will pass?
Well, that's a great question. Obviously, it'd be very impactful in our business because we specialize in Glock handguns, and of course, the Glock has always gotten this popularity, and then of course this negative press because it's been used in some of these shootings. So right now, obviously, Glock is working heavily, on this because they know that their gun is used by 70% of law enforcement nationwide. It's not going to go away. I mean, it's used by the FBI, the Secret Service, the CIA, the DEA, and of course a lot of the local law enforcement agencies nationwide. The sheriffs and police departments around the country. So, what can we do as gun owners? Again, I think, we have to show up and we have to make sure that, that our representatives understand that, hey, we don't want any of this legislation. We don't want anybody to be telling us how to live our life and how to manage, the way we want to protect ourselves. We have to tell these people who work for us. These are politicians who are elected and work for us. They take our money. They get paid with our money. We have to tell them, no. We have to tell them, no, don't do that. And I think that we, at some point, are all going to have to start to get on the phone and start to write letters and become very vocal, because there's really a smaller group of people, liberal-minded people who are dictating the conversation.
Lenny,
I believe that most people want to have guns.
Another angle on this, though, from the caller is, it's a good question, but it's going to put you out of business. If Feinstein's gun confiscation system passes, it's going to destroy jobs in California, like your employees and of course, many other gun manufacturers across America. This has got to be a red alert situation for you personally, as well as all your employees.
Absolutely. We're definitely, it's on the radar. She's not really looking at the big picture. It's a knee-jerk reaction to say that, look, I did something, that's going to help those children in Connecticut. And in reality, that's not true. It's totally not true.
The best way to help those children in school is first take down those silly signs that say gun-free zone, which are advertising them as basically child shooting preserves or something. It's ridiculous. Do these gun grabbers actually think those signs are magical? that have some magical power?
Yeah, I mean, like, oh, okay, I won't take a gun in there and be bad. You know, I won't be a bad guy there. You know, and again, we really, you know, have to get back to the motivation and the mindset of these shooters and say, well, what made someone do that? Why would they do that? And no normal person would do that, right? We all agree that that's not a normal thing.
Yeah.
And again, we have to realize that every one of them have been prescribed pharmaceuticals, psychopsychotic drugs that change their personalities and increase the aggression and homicidal, suicidal thoughts.
You got it. Good question, Sean. Thank you for your call. Let's go to another caller. Now, again, we don't screen your calls, and the name is coming up here as Mouse Link in New York. Now, is that a nickname, sir, or what's your question, and where's your name come from?
That's my Twitter handle.
Got it.
Yeah, fighting the info war on Twitter. Hey, so I'm not really a big gun guy, and I follow technological issues primarily.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things that I've been seeing a lot out there these days is this personal manufacturing movement called 3D printing. Are you guys familiar with this?
Yeah, you bet. Desktop fabrication, yeah.
Yeah, and so what I'm starting to see is the miscellaneous blog or video out there about people who are basically manufacturing their own gun parts. And so what I did this morning is I sent a tweet to Senator Feinstein, and I basically asked her about her assault weapons ban and how she planned on dealing with 3D printing. And I was wondering, from somebody who's in the gun business, just kind of what your thoughts are on that and how that could change things and how, you know, potentially that could circumvent any kind of legislation like this, couldn't it?
Yeah, good question, caller. But before you answer that, Lenny, let me just also state, so far that technology obviously can only render 3D polymer objects, not the metal parts that are needed in guns. But that could, of course, be something that advances in the future. But go ahead, Lenny. It's a legit question.
Yeah, I've actually seen those 3D printers in action. And just for your callers who don't know what it is, it's basically it's a laser device that goes in and off a computer program, and it will cut like you said, plastic into shapes and models, and it's come a long way, really, in the past 5 years. And it does have the capacity to develop a polymer frame that then you can put the metal parts on top of, which is what a Glock really is. However, you know, there are some limitations there. I mean, not that it can't be done, but you know, there are still a couple metal pieces that are embedded into
the controlled serial number part of the Glock is the metal slide, I believe, not the polymer handle.
It's the polymer slide.
It is? It really is? That's what... Hold on.
The polymer frame is the
look at mine over here.
The frame is the gun, and everything else is a part.
Wow, that's interesting. So, okay, so with an AR, obviously the receiver is normally the serial numbered part. That's metal. You can't make that with desktop manufacturing, but with a Glock...
Well, that is actually an aluminum part. The receivers are aluminum, and they are, you know, either come in a billet or come in into a forging, and then they're just drilled out. And basically, so it's a fairly simple process with a machine, shop that can make these things. So it's not really impossible to make these guns.
But I think the big answer is going to be that they'll just pass more laws to say it's illegal to manufacture a gun using additive manufacturing, which is what these desktop 3D printers really are.
Well, yeah, and the problem is, again, they're going to pass more laws and more laws and more laws, and everybody's going to be a criminal at any time.
That's right.
And the government can say, you know what they're going to do? They're going to say, we don't agree with your politics, and by the way, you broke that law, you're going to jail.
Yep, that's right.
And that's exactly what this whole thing's about, is that everybody's a criminal, and if we don't like you, you don't agree with us, you don't go along with us, or you're too vocal, or you're too this, we're going to put you in jail.
Oh, no, they'll probably
put everybody in jail.
They'll outlaw the vector 3D printing file. So even if your computer possesses the file that could be used to print out let's say a Glock frame, then all of a sudden you're a felon. All right,
everybody's a felon. Everybody can go to jail based upon the whim of the supreme leader.
Good question, Mouse Link. Really, really good question. Very relevant to what's happening here today. Let's go to another caller, Joseph in Arizona. Joseph, you are on the air on national radio with Lenny Magill. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, how you doing, Mike and Lenny?
Hey, doing good.
Yeah, hi. Actually, I want to thank Lenny for putting out a lot of videos in the 90s. I actually learned a lot. he was the gun video guy before Magill guys and James Jager and all of them. But the main reason why I'm calling is I've seen him in at SHOT Show videos on YouTube, so I know and as an industry person, I know he regularly attends.
All right, only a few seconds. Go ahead with your question, please.
Yes, the question is, I want to call this the Ronnie Barrett option. During late 90s and mid-2000s, Ronnie Barrett, when he saw LAPD were using his M82 50 BMG rifles as a prop, as an agitprop for propaganda against 50 cal when they were banning it, he promptly wrote a letter to Commissioner Bratton, I think that was at the time, saying he will not sell, resupply, or service any more Californian government agencies or any agencies that wanted to ban it.
Hey,
I'm wondering,
we're just about out of time. 5 seconds.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there'll be any move at the SHOT Show to get a lot of industry personnel to sign on to forbid sale, service.
All right, Lenny, you'll have to answer that question on the other side. Can you stay with us one more segment, please? We'll be right back.
We have witnessed 2 terrible storms in the east.
All right, welcome back. We are here on the Alex Jones Show. This is Mike Adams filling in for Alex today. Thank you for joining us. We're continuing our conversation on gun control with Lenny Magill, the founder of GlockStore.com. And we just took a question from a caller. And Lenny, I'd like to turn that question over to you. To summarize it, I think it was a question of, would gun shops refuse to service government? But that doesn't make sense because so many law enforcement, police officers are actually very much pro-Constitution people, pro-Bill of Rights people. So what are your thoughts on that, Lenny?
Well, he mentioned the SHOT Show, and that's the big industry trade show, and that's going to be happening in 2 weeks in Las Vegas. And obviously, there's going to be some kind of action going on there. The real question is, will gun manufacturers who support and, like I said, the law enforcement agencies, nationwide with their products, will they say, hey, you guys have to also come to the table with us and start to fight these, crazy laws because they are crazy. Yeah. I mean, this is a control factor, and this is what your audience has to realize. Obviously the time is short here, and I'm going to try to close out with let people know that this gun control is people control. Has nothing to do with firearms. It's about controlling your ability to protect yourself against the government and against bad guys who can crash into your house. It's about controlling you and the way you operate and the way you live. And it's just like taxes. Taxes are all about control. They don't want you to have too much time or too much money because you have too much money, you have too much time. So they'll take away your money and they'll take away your guns, and then they'll tell you exactly what you have to do. And back now, look at what's happening with healthcare. You have to buy my healthcare, or I'm going to tax you more. So, this is a crazy world we're living in, and we have to be very careful not to lose this ability to keep and maintain firearms in our homes.
Well said. Lenny Magill of GlockStore.com. I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us today, and hopefully we'll talk to you again.
Thank you, Mike, and thanks to your audience. And I'm anxious to hear what Alex got to say here in an hour and a half or so. Yep, it's coming up, so tune in. Thank you, sir. You bet. Well, there goes Lenny. That's a busy guy. During the breaks, by the way, we could hear him over the phone. He was actually conducting business at his store, trying to help customers there while we were on break. Busy guy. But again, he mentioned that they've still got Glocks available, and you can buy them through him nationwide, so check out GlockStore.com. I always like to plug the guests that take the time to come on and offer their important views on all of these issues. But now we have callers who are still on the line, and even though our guest is gone for now, although we do have another guest coming up, Kelly O'Meara, coming up in, 20 minutes or so, I do want to go ahead and go to your calls, and let's talk about these issues. Maybe you have comments on what you just heard. Bill in Virginia is on the line. Welcome to the show, Bill, and how can we help you today?
How you doing, Mike? Pleasure to talk to you. I do want to thank you, also Alex and the rest of the staff for waking me up. Basically, I've been listening for the last 2 years. First time I'm calling, so I'm kind of nervous here. But,
that's all right. I appreciate your thanks. What are your thoughts on everything that's happening?
Well, it really gets me upset that how this government is just abolishing our Constitution. And you guys woke me up, and now I truly believe we should go and follow the Constitution. So I also enjoy listening to, Keeper, and that's really awesome.
Oh, yeah.
My question, it really, Mike, is, is there perhaps a rally coming up at the Capitol before, government tries to take our,
good question. There's a lot of people asking this question. What can we do right now? In truth, it's still very early in this process. Remember, Feinstein's gun-grabbing, Adolf Hitler-inspired proposal just came out yesterday. And so this is very new. Give this some time, and I am sure there will be marches, there will be protests organized, there will be online events organized. InfoWars right now today is already organizing a petition to try Dianne Feinstein for treason. I think that was authored by InfoWars. Anyway, it's up at Infowars.com. So there are things starting. I saw a YouTube video just yesterday of an activist who turned around that celebrity video and said, we must end the government violence using firearms. So there's already efforts underway, and I know there will be more. I know that at Natural News we're going to be fighting for liberty and working to raise awareness and rally activists. So don't worry, that's coming. And by the way, we're gonna take some more calls. Not yet, but when we come back, I want to take the call from Clark in Arizona, a former cop. So Clark, if you're on the line, please stay on the line, and we'll come right back to you after this break. And thank you for your call there, the caller who just called. A lot more coming up, including a big discussion about psychiatric drugs from an expert author of the book Psyched Out, who's going to tell us more about what they don't want you to know about the links between psychiatric drugs and violent shootings. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
We're on the mark.
We're continuing to take calls, and we're going to go to a former cop in Arizona named Clark, who has been holding on the subject of firearms and the new gun confiscation proposal put out by Dianne Feinstein, who now has a petition circulating to try her for treason for attempting to overthrow the Second Amendment, the Bill of Rights. Anyway, let's go to Clark. Go ahead, Clark. Sir, you are on the air. Thank you for calling, and what can we do for you today?
Off with a Happy New Year for all of us, although I'm a little optimistic on that one.
Yeah.
I'm a former law enforcement officer. I'm also a combat Marine. And over the years, I come from a law enforcement family. My dad was a cop for over 30 years. My grandfather was a beat cop in New York City, et cetera, et cetera. We all know that taking away the guns will not stop crime.
Yeah.
We also know that by taking away the guns, the criminal will have a field day because they don't care how they get theirs.
That's right.
And you know what I'm looking at is the big picture of all this. How do these idiots, these New World Order morons, figure they're going to collect all? 2/3 of the country owns guns. What are you going to do? Throw 2/3 of the country in jail?
Well, they would love that.
Budget?
They would love that. Well, the prison is a big growing industry, so they would love that.
Play hell.
Yeah.
You take a look here in Maricopa County, and I don't live here. I'm just down here, for the winter. I live in northern Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Here in Maricopa County, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, I believe that's how you pronounce his name.
Yes.
Just announced the other day he's taking his sheriff's posse, which are reserve deputies. They're all sworn deputies. And they're going to put them in all the schools in Maricopa County.
Yeah.
And it's spreading like wildfire.
Mm-hmm.
Arizona is not about.
Let me ask you, Clark, if the order comes down for local police to go confiscate door to door, do you think they will follow that, or will they quit, or will they refuse? What will happen?
They can go home. They will quit, go home, and they will take care of their families and protect their own.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing from everybody else.
I've spoken to many of them. I know many of them here in this state. I know a few in other states where I've lived previously and worked. Number one, they don't want to get shot trying to collect a firearm.
Yeah.
On an unlawful order from the federal government.
Yep.
Most of them are pro-gun.
That was my next question. What percentage of cops today do you think are actually pro-Second Amendment? Because I think it's very high.
Pretty high, right around 80%.
Yep. I think you nailed it, Clark. Good points and good questions. I appreciate your call, and stay strong, man. We need people like you in America to help protect our Second Amendment rights. Let's go to Brad in Toronto for a possibly Canadian point of view on the whole issue. Brad, you're on the air. Go ahead with your question, sir.
Hi, Mike. First-time caller. Just wanted to get your take on it, like the comment that I have. I've been a listener for a long time, many years. I'm just really skeptical when I hear that, there'll be a civil war if they try to collect the guns, because, like, recent history sort of tells us the exact opposite. It's like the government does not obey their own laws. They go ahead and they do, and they have done whatever that they've wanted. I just don't see when, they're not going to come and grab all the guns, I don't think. They're going to end up coming back with laws that we have here, the bogus 10-round magazines, and banning certain guns for, because they look scary without any good reason. So they're not going to do everything all at once. It'll be incremental.
That's a good point.
And I think people are just going to say, okay, well, that's not going to affect me, so people are going to be tame. But I hope I'm wrong, because if you guys go further than what we've gone here in Canada, like, how long is it going to be before I have to turn in my AR here? So,
well, you're right about the incremental approach. That is exactly, you nailed it. That's how it's going to happen. They're going to say first, all you need to do is register your guns. Well, let's actually back up. First, it was, we're not coming for your guns. You're a conspiracy theorist if you think we are, right? That's the way it was until a few days ago. Now it's, we are coming for your guns, but you really only have to just register your guns. We won't ever take them, right? And that'll go for a little while, and people will go along with it probably. Well, some will. And they'll say, it's just paperwork, and what does it matter that we're letting the government build a database of where we live and the serial numbers of our firearms? And then, do you think Feinstein will stop at gun registration? No, it'll be confiscation. They will stage another shooting, and then they will say, we already have a list of everybody who owns the firearms. Let's just go take them. So you're right, sir. It will be an incremental confiscation end-game result. And those who refuse to give them up, after you've registered, if you refuse to give it up, they'll just throw you in jail or shoot you. They'll just execute people right there on the spot. But a good call. Thank you for your call. And I want to mention, too, the guys running the board there, we do want to get Kelly on the phone as soon as possible and go ahead and get into the psychiatric drug interviews. But until then, let's continue. All right, great. Let's continue to take some calls. Duff in Kansas is on the air. Go ahead, Duff. What's your question or comment?
Well, I want to make 2 points. I'm a recovering addict, and I got clean in 96. And upon leaving treatment, one of the things that they insisted that I did was to get on Zoloft. And, I couldn't get my head wrapped around the fact that I went to a treatment facility to get clean just to trade drugs. And, they told me I'd never hold down a job. I would struggle for the rest of my life. And that's not true. I've had the same job for 14 years.
So you got off an addictive substance and you got on a Zoloft. And have you had experiences with Zoloft?
No, I wouldn't get on anything.
Oh, you refused?
I refused it.
I see.
I refused it. It didn't make any sense to me, to go to a drug treatment center to get off of one thing and onto another.
Yeah, well, that's good for you. I mean, that's the scam today. They do want you to just go to their drugs. See, they want you to buy Big Pharma's drugs rather than street drugs. That's the whole deal.
See, that's where funding's coming from.
Yeah.
They get funded, because our governor at the time was Kathleen Sebelius.
Boy.
And her philosophy behind the deal was, we need to take the money away from the state-funded treatment facilities and build the jails bigger, because
you can never build the jails big enough, can you, in a police state? You just have to keep expanding those jails. Max Kaiser was right. You should all buy stock in prisons. And then when you go to prison, you'll be making money on yourself. Imagine that. What a great money-making opportunity in the land of the formerly free. Well, thank you for your call, sir. That's a good point. And that does segue actually into our next segment, where we have a guest, an expert on psychiatric drugs. Her name is Kelly O'Meara. She is the author of the book called Psyched Out. She's an investigative journalist. And she was actually one of the first to expose the link between school shootings and psychiatric drugs in her 1999 cover story, Guns and Doses. And she writes for Washington Times and Insight Magazine and other publications. She joins us now by phone. Thank you, Kelly, and welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Mike.
It's great to have you on. I hope you are buckled in and ready for an interesting hour of comments and calls.
Yeah, it should be interesting.
Well, let's start from the top. Tell us, what do you know through your investigations and research? What is your knowledge of the real link between psychiatric drugs and school shooters?
Well, as you just said, I was actually the first national reporter to put out a cover story on this, Guns and Doses, and it was right after Columbine. And basically what I showed was, I think it was the last 10 out of 13 shooters at that time had been on psychiatric drugs or were coming off of them, and that Eric Harris was on a mind-altering drug, a psychiatric mind-altering drug, at the time of the shooting. So since then, I can't believe it's been, 15 years. We're still dealing with this as far as I'm concerned. And the problem is that nobody wants to address this connection.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? The mainstream media, of course, is largely funded by the drug companies and their psychiatric drugs. So it seems to be unwilling to really cover this story. Have you seen resistance in the media to your covering of it? For example, have you ever pitched stories to mainstream magazines and they said, no way, we won't cover this because of our advertisers?
They never tell you it's because of advertisers, no.
What do they say?
Well, they just turn it down.
There's randomly deleted.
Yeah, that's the life of a journalist, though.
Yeah.
But, I look at it, and I've done enough research. I wrote a book about it. The connection is definitely there. I don't understand, especially with the recent event in Newtown, why the public still is not told whether these people are on psychiatric drugs. I think in today's world, with the millions of people in the United States alone who take psychiatric drugs, I think it's odd, to say the least, that that's not one of the first things that the law enforcement or investigators try to find out.
Well, no, what happens after these shootings is immediately the mainstream media and the White House begin to try to shape the story. And they try to shape it to, for example, to say, oh, it was an AR-15 Bushmaster, even though that was actually left in the guy's car. It wasn't even brought into the school. We just learned that, that's a fact that they won't talk about. And then when neighbors say, oh, yeah, the kid was on psychiatric drugs and he was seeing a psychiatrist, that then starts to get muzzled in the press. They don't want that to come out. So we see this shaping of the story to take away the blame from psychiatric drugs and place the blame on a firearm, a specific brand of gun.
Well, I do believe that they shaped the story. Obviously, we all watched it over the weekend after Newtown, and we saw the talk shows and how it was being shaped. The thing is that this kid, and I hate to even call him a kid. He was a young man. He was 20 years old. This was not a child. Okay, at least not physically, maybe mentally. And we know that he had some psychiatric issues. We know this. Everyone has pretty much said it. To what extent, that's the question. When was he diagnosed? What was he diagnosed with? How many drugs has he been given over his short life?
And who is his psychiatrist?
And who is his psychiatrist? Or was it even a psychiatrist? Was it just a regular MD? Because, in today's world, most of the drugging, most of the diagnosing is going on by your family doctor, not a psychiatrist, which is even more bizarre when you start to think about it. Because if there is a specialty of psychiatry, which I'm sure we could get into a very long conversation about that, these are regular doctors who may spend 5 or 10 minutes talking to you and your child, and, they deduce that, it could be ADD, it could be ADHD, they're depressed. You go through the checklist from the DSM and, hand them a drug. That's really where we're at in today's world.
Let me read some of the statistics from the graphic that you have provided us today. Go ahead and put that back on screen if you could, guys, just to show. These are some of the side effects that are documented in clinical studies and published in peer-reviewed medical journals. The side effects of these antidepressants and psychotropic drugs. They include violence, aggression, homicidal ideation, which means imagining killing people, psychosis, hostility, and mania. And I know that's a shortened version of the list, Kelly.
Right. Oh, totally a shortened list. But those are the most important things to look at. I mean, when you look at the FDA and they approve these psychiatric drugs, the SSRIs, the antidepressants, suicidality, homicidality, mania, psychosis, these are the things that, people must be saying to themselves, oh, it won't happen to me. I'm not one of the 4% of the clinical trials. 4% of the clinical trials, people experienced those adverse reactions. Well, unfortunately, those people are walking around us today. They are among us.
Well, that's almost 1 in 20 people. It's 1 in 25.
Yeah.
That's a large. I mean, yeah. In a population of what, tens of millions of people being put on these drugs, you're going to have, many thousands of homicidal, drugged up maniacs.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, what's so sad is that, these are regular people who went to their doctor who, I think legitimately were, possibly depressed and whatever. They've been put on these drugs and I don't know, do they all go home and read about the possible adverse side effects? Because these are very, very serious drugs. They're not drugs to be played with. Okay.
Well, but their doctors tell them they're perfectly safe. You need this. This will help you. Like a caller that we just had said that when he went into the addiction treatment center, they practically demanded that he go on Zoloft.
Oh, how interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, because, someone who's already has a chemical addiction problem, I guess they need other chemicals prescribed by Big Pharma. That seems to be the what's going on out there. But let me read you this. This is bizarre, and I want your comments on this, Kelly, and then I do want to take some calls for you as well. Here's some news out of ABC News. In a Western Australia mental hospital, the wrong man was grabbed by police on the street, an innocent man, because he was mistaken for an escaped psychiatric patient. They then grabbed the man, stuffed him back into the psychiatric hospital, and drugged him up with a powerful antipsychotic schizophrenia drug. And the only reason they realized their mistake was because the drug caused a massive allergic reaction and they had to rush him to the emergency room. They realized this is the wrong guy. So now they can just grab you off the street, forcibly drug you, and damage your brain with these chemicals, even though you're completely innocent.
This was in Australia?
Yeah, this was in Australia.
Wow.
Yeah, it's right. It's on ABC News. It's called Wrong Man Drugged After Psychiatric Hospital Mistake from December 26th.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess if we just match a description now.
Pardon me?
I was just saying, if we match a description of a psych ward patient now, we can be arrested and drugged. Your comments?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure. Well, the Marine who wrote something on Facebook.
Raub, yeah. Brandon Raub.
Yeah, he had something sort of similar happen to him here. I don't know that we're to that point in this country yet, and maybe it's because so many people voluntarily go to the doctor to get these drugs. I don't know. You know what I mean? What bothers me is that people don't understand the process. And when I wrote my book, that was really the whole point of writing my book was informed consent. I don't think people understand that these diagnoses, these psychiatric diagnoses, are not based in science. They literally are voted into the DSM.
They make it up. They just invent it with a show of hands. They make it up.
Right.
All right, folks, stay with us. We're going to be back with more from Kelly O'Meara, the author of Psyched Out, How Psychiatry Sells Mental Illness and Pushes Pills That Kill. Stay with us. We'll take more calls straight ahead here at the Alex Jones Show. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show, and make sure you stay tuned into the next hour when Alex comes back into this studio right here. He will be breaking some big news in about 35 minutes from right now, and you definitely will not want to miss that news. And for this segment and into the next hour, we are continuing our interview with Kelly O'Meara, the author of Psyched Out, How Psychiatry Sells Mental Illness and Pushes Pills That Kill. That book is available on Amazon.com and many other resellers as well. And before we go back to Kelly and take some calls, this news was just handed to me by Aaron Dykes. Paul Craig Roberts has published another excellent story. Paul Craig Roberts is one of my favorite writers, by the way. But this story brings up the very good point that, you know how we played that video in the last hour that the rifle of Adam Lanza was left in the vehicle and found in the vehicle, and that only 4 handguns were found actually in the school? As Paul Craig Roberts points out, the school has a security camera and locked doors. They would not have let Adam Lanza into the school if he had been carrying a rifle. The only way they let him in is because he must have been hiding handguns. And then that's how he got in and gained access. Now, even though this rifle apparently now was not used in the shooting, that didn't stop the gun grabbers from screaming about so-called assault weapons, even though a regular semi-auto AR-15 is in no way an assault weapon. You have to have a full auto to be an assault weapon. And the prices on those are like $40,000, and you have to go through an extensive ATF background check, and it can take 6 months to even get that, if you could even find one. So the people who are trying to grab assault rifles, they are confused. They are deranged. They are uninformed. They really do not know anything about the weapons that they are trying to ban. But, of course, there's a psychiatric drug link in with all of these school shootings, it seems, or most of them, maybe not 100%, but very, very high percentage. And Kelly O'Meara is the expert on that, the investigative reporter, and she continues to join us here in this segment and the next. So, Kelly, are you open to taking some calls?
Yeah, Mike, I wanted to just insert something there. This is very interesting, this breaking news that from Paul Craig Roberts. You know, that was one of the first questions I asked the day that it happened was, well, what about the video camera at the school? Every school has video cameras.
Exactly.
In this day and age.
And if he had a rifle, they would have released that video footage already.
But even more so, I remember, and I'm pretty sure anyway, watching the coroner the day give the breakdown as delicately as he could. But I remember him saying these were high-powered shots. So this is very interesting. I'm very interested to see what he has to say about this.
Well, yeah, the coroner may be that's a kind of a general term to say a high-powered shot. That could be 9mm plus P rounds. That doesn't mean a rifle round necessarily. And we've seen how the media has gotten their hands on these school videos of every other school shooting because they use that as propaganda to show the kids with the rifles and the guns. But wow, we have no video from this shooting.
Yeah.
Why is that?
The first thing I asked myself when I was watching all this, I thought, wow, where's the video?
Yeah, well, we're looking at it on Prisonplanet.tv. Viewers are seeing the footage from the Columbine shooting, and I remember not too long ago watching some of the footage from the May 1st, 2001 shooting that was patterned after Columbine. They released that video because that used, I think, some kind of a shotgun and some kind of I think an M1A rifle or something. So they released that. But anyway, stay with us, Kelly. Sorry I didn't get much talk in this break, but we'll be right back in just 1 minute or so with more with Kelly O'Meara and more discussion on psychiatric drugs. So stay with us. This is the Alex Jones Show. We'll be right back after this short break. It occurs to me that just after the 9/11 staged event, the federal government went around confiscating all the video footage from every source imaginable, but especially all the videos showing the strike on the Pentagon, which the government said was an airplane, but most people have now figured out it was probably a cruise missile of some sort. But we don't know for sure because all the video has been confiscated and never shown to the American public. Why is that? Well, it's because the video shows something that contradicts the government's story. That's why. It's kind of obvious. You have to be a moron not to realize that by now. But now with the Newtown school shooting, this raises the question that we're just getting into. Why haven't they released the video from inside the school to show this shooter with his so-called AR-15 Bushmaster rifle? Now, maybe they will. And if that's the case, then okay, maybe he did use it. But the news reports we're hearing today are that he left it in the car. It wasn't even used in the shooting, and they're not releasing the video. So why wouldn't they release the video, especially as it would further their gun control agenda? Why would they keep it a secret? They've released all the other school shooting videos. In any case, we are continuing with Kelly O'Meara, the author of Psyched Out, who is an expert on psychiatric drugs and the side effects in school shootings, and she continues with us on the phone right now. And Kelly, any additional comments before we start to take calls?
Well, back to this Newtown, Sandy Hook, the video would be interesting from the standpoint of if he had a rifle, the question would be why did they let him in?
Right.
Number one.
Yeah, come on in.
If he didn't have a rifle and obviously no guns were visible, to the people seeing the camera, whatever, then did they know him to let him in?
Did they know him?
In other words, they let him either.
Yeah, they did know him.
Okay, so they let him in. Okay.
Yeah, they let him in.
But remember, we went through this whole several days of there's no connection between him and Sandy Hook. There's no connection between his mother and Sandy Hook. So I mean, what I'm getting at is we really don't know anything concrete. After all this time, and this is a long time.
No, we only know the things that they want us to know, half of which are lies in any case. But
it's frustrating. It's very frustrating.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure there must be people listening who are saying, well, how dare you try to ask for the video of the shooting? You have to honor the dead children. Well, wait a minute. The gun grabbers aren't honoring the dead children. They're using those dead children to pass their political agenda, their anti-American traitorous agenda. They're not honoring the dead children at all. All we want to know is the truth. We don't need to show the actual children. Those can be mosaicked out of the video. We don't need to show them. What we need to see is, did this shooter actually have a rifle on him, or is that another piece of fiction out of this vast collage of fiction?
Right, and again, I mean, I think the people have to understand the whole purpose behind doing an investigation of something like this, hopefully, is to make sure it doesn't happen again. So it's important to get all the truth, not just pieces, parts that they want to give us.
That's right, and they haven't shown us the rifle. They haven't shown us the ballistics reports. They haven't shown us any of the brass from the rifle. They haven't even actually shown us much of anything.
And in fact, I think that the families of the victims obviously would like to have all the truth also. So it's not just
definitely.
It's not just us asking these questions.
Yeah, well, let's go to some calls, all right? And by the way, for those of you who have just joined us, Alex Jones will be here in a few minutes to break some big news at the bottom of this hour. And you don't want to miss that, so stay tuned for that. We're going to go to a quick break, but when we come back, we will go straight to your calls, I promise, including Daniel, Leo, Michael, George, and Roy. Not George Michael, but Michael and George, two separate people. We'll be back with all those callers and much more straight ahead, so stay with us. This is the Alex Jones Show live on Friday, December the 28th. We'll be right back after this break. All right, so here's how it works. Anytime the government wants to ban something, some object, some item, all they have to do is they go into a school, stage a massacre of innocent children, and then they just throw that object on the floor and say that did it. They want to ban slingshots. They can just massacre a bunch of children or plant bombs and then throw a bunch of slingshots on the floor. Or knives. They can go in and slash a bunch of innocent victims and then just throw some knives on the ground and find a patsy to blame for it and then say, aha, knives killed the children. We have to ban knives. Have to ban swords. Have to ban blowguns. Hey, we can have a blowgun massacre in America. I'm not trying to make fun of the massacre. What I'm trying to do is point out the utter, insanely idiotic manipulation that is taking place here. Now, those children's lives should never have been lost. But nor should those in Oklahoma City have been lost, nor should those in Aurora, Colorado have been lost. And they were all lost, I think the evidence clearly shows, by a planned, engineered event with the political purpose of blaming a particular object. That's the way it works in America today. But anyway, we are continuing with calls now for Kelly O'Meara on the issue of psychiatric drugs and the relationship between psych drugs and violent shooters. Are you ready now, Kelly? You ready to take some calls? All right, here we go. Daniel in Washington, thank you for holding. You are on the air with Kelly. Go ahead with your question, please.
Hello, first-time caller. I have a question. I've been doing a lot of researching up on how this kid's face was looking and all that stuff. I've done some research on bath salts, and bath salts have a chemical reaction with the brain that causes hallucinations. Is there a possibility that that could have had any action with the way that this kid did what he did?
Well, we don't know. There's no official report of what he was on. And by bath salts, you mean the illegal street drug that's nicknamed bath salts. I know you're not actually referring to actual salt that you put in your bath. But Kelly, what are your comments on that? From the way the shooter looks, he looks pretty psychotic. But, you know, it's hard to judge people just by their facial expression. What do you think?
Well, I think he looks malnutritioned, if anything. You know, again, we don't know. This is the problem. We don't know what he was on. We don't know what he was diagnosed with. We don't know how long he was on these drugs. We don't know if he was just coming off of them, if his drugs had been upped or had they been reduced. I mean, we don't know. We don't know anything other than we can look at this and go, okay, it seems to fit the pattern of these school shootings.
All right, good answer. We need more information. Thank you for your call, Daniel. Good question. Let's go to George in Connecticut. George, thank you for calling. You are on the air. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, thanks a lot. I just wanted to make a few comments that weren't related to the site thing, but I wanted to give you some clues. I am from Connecticut, and growing up in Connecticut, Newtown was always the byword for being crazy because they had the largest crazy house there until about 2000. And a neighboring town, only about 15 minutes down the road, was famous for felt hats for about 140 years, and their mascot is known as the Mad Hatter or the Hatters for their teams. So that gives you a clue. Gives you a clue on globalists like to take this theme, including the Batman thing. But the things I really wanted to make comment about. Everybody's talking about a financial collapse. If there's a financial collapse, why would we want to be disarmed when the police can't be everywhere?
Good point.
And the second point is, why don't we have a push for disarming the gangs in the country first? And now if they can disarm the gangs, we might consider disarming because that's a consideration. And they haven't done such a good job with the drug war for the last 30 years, so I don't know how they're going to do that. So, you know where I'm getting with my point. And the last point I wanted to make...
Well, wait, George, before you move on. I have the solution. I know how to disarm the gangs. You have gang signs that say gun-free zone, and you just hang them up in the gang areas. And it works like magic. It's a gang gun-free zone sign. That's it. Let's sell them in the InfoWars store. That solves the gang problem. Senator Feinstein, we have your solution, woman. It's the gang gun-free zone sign. Magical powers. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
And the last point, and since they killed about 1,000 people in Australia by confiscating the guns that people didn't want to give up, that has a population of about 22,620,000. And if you multiply that factor you would get out of that, if you divided 1,000 into that thing and use the same factor and multiply it times the United States, that would come up with a debt of 22,000. I'm sorry, not 22,000. Sorry, my mistake. I was looking at the wrong. 13,793 kills, including children, mothers, men, everybody. Now, is that what their goal is? Another maybe 12,000 or so Wacos?
Yeah, very, very good point. But as Alex described yesterday, that is what they want. They do want a shooting war to break out. They want that kind of mass murder in America. That's what it seems to be. But I thank you for your call, and I love it when callers have statistics, too, and good numbers. Very good analysis there. Kelly, what are your thoughts on what the caller just brought up?
Well, it's interesting. That's all I can say.
What's interesting about it? I mean...
It's a lot of statistics there.
Well, but he's right. He's right. You know, when Australia banned the guns, some people said, we're not giving them up, and those became shooting wars. So his point really is that, is it just to try to prevent the death of, let's say, 20 children? Are you willing to kill 20,000 people in America? And apparently the liberals say, yes, we want to kill all the gun owners. They call for shooting the NRA president. They call for violence. They don't kill if they have to murder 50 million American people as long as they think they can save 2 children in a school. I say it's not worth killing anybody. Why can't we have peace for all of us? Why can't we be independent, liberty-minded, upstanding citizens in a free country and just leave it at that? And, sometimes bad things happen, but that's why we're talking about the psych drugs.
Exactly.
All right. Well, let's go to another caller then, if you're ready for it.
Yeah.
We don't screen these callers, by the way, so it can be anything. It can be absolutely anything. So here we go. Michael in Massachusetts. Michael, you are on the air. Thank you for calling, and what's on your mind?
Hello. I'd like to comment on the medication of children in general.
Yeah, go ahead.
They don't have any free will as to if their parents push something on them. So if I might quickly just interject with something I wrote in the break.
Well, yeah, if it's short and to the point, go for it.
Yeah. The Uncle Sam pharma industry pumps kids on methamphetamine derivatives from elementary school onward. Teachers compel parents to believe the lack of interaction in school is somehow a deficit, whereas a genius might be bored with base mental effort required to repeat what is written in the textbooks.
Well, there you go. Your thoughts, Kelly?
Well, I agree. I agree 100%. Children are forced to take these drugs. I mean, they do not have the right to say no. Okay, their parents can put their children on these drugs, and often the schools push it. They decide that if your child's not like everybody else, because that's what really they want. They want everybody to be the same. And if your child acts out in any way, then they call you in, and you need to take your child to have them looked at. And of course, parents believe doctors, believe the nonsense of the psychiatric diagnosis, and surprisingly to me, in this day, 15 years after Columbine, the parents are still putting their kids on what is the equivalent of cocaine, ADHD drugs, and it just blows my mind that they're still doing it.
Kelly, what about the combination of these psych drugs, which we know cause a kind of cognitive detachment from reality, but combining them with these first-person shooter, ultra-hyper-realistic video games now, where they are really murder simulators? There's a new game that's just come out. I watched the trailer, horrified. It's called Far Cry 3. And this game is, in my view, a murder simulator. I saw the preview. I haven't played the game, but I saw the preview. When you sneak up behind an enemy and you slice their neck open with a knife and blood gushes out on screen, bonus points appear on the screen, like plus 10, plus 15. So the more people you stab and shoot, you get points. How is that impacting these drugged up kids?
Well, look, I don't know how old you are, but when we were kids, we played Army, and we blew up Army men. And I don't think there's a single study that supports that these video games are contributing to these horrific shooting incidents.
But the difference is when you and I were kids, if we played a game, it was a third-person thing, like little plastic army men in a sandbox. Today, you're actually sitting, you're controlling the character, seeing through their eyes. It's like a first-person training simulator. Right. And now they're coming out with these VR helmets that are ultra-realistic, total immersion in the simulation.
That's up to the parent. The parents buy these things for their kids, which I don't really understand, but they do. Just like they put them on the drugs. And you say, what about these cocktail of drugs? That's the newest thing, is kids aren't on one mind-altering drug. They're on several.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're literally changing their normal brain chemicals.
Right.
And that's where you start to get in trouble.
Well, Kelly, I want to thank you for joining us today. We only have a minute left. Let me plug your book here. It's called Psyched Out. You can find that on Amazon.com. I know you also contribute to CCHR. Their website is cchrint.org. They do great work against psychiatric drugs. I've written some things for them before as well. Anything else you'd like to mention before the segment ends?
Yeah, just if we're talking about these drugs, I would encourage people to learn about the adverse side effects to them. And also, if you're diagnosed or your children are diagnosed with a psychiatric mental illness, research it. Don't just take the doctor's word for it.
All right, well said. Thank you, Kelly O'Meara, for all of your comments and thoughts today. Good information. We'll be right back with more straight ahead. Stay with us.
This man wants your guns.
Alex Jones Show, thank you for continuing with us. Alex will be here in just a few minutes with some big breaking news, so you don't want to miss that. It's a big deal. You'll want to hear that. I can't wait to hear it. In the meantime, we had some great ideas. In the last segment, we were talking about how to solve the gun problem in all across America. Guns in the hands of criminals. It's very simple. You just hang up gun-free zone signs in all the gang areas, and the magicality of the signs automatically eliminates all guns from the gang zones. And of course, if you don't believe that, then you're not sufficiently worshiping the liberal mindset, because they believe that's how they work with schools. You hang up a sign, a gun-free zone sign in front of a school, and the guns magically disappear, as if a wizard's spell has been cast over the entire school. In reality, the spell has been cast over your mind by neurolinguistic programmer Obama. But hey, why stop with the signs in front of the schools? I think we should all walk into the airport with signs hanging from our waists that say molestation-free zone. How about that? Have one hanging from the back that says latex glove-free zone. Just to let the TSA know that this is not the appropriate zone to do what they do. Okay, I'm not going to go into any more detail on that. But hey, if signs are magical, let's just use them. Let's use them for our own protection. let's have tyranny-free zones. Like, you hang a sign in front of your door, tyranny-free zone, and then when the feds come to raid you for owning a .22 pistol, they'll see the sign and they'll say, we can't go in there. It's a tyranny-free zone. How about that? All right, enough satire. But man, it's all so ridiculous. I can't resist it. Let's go to a caller, Greg from Utah, who operates, looks like KYAH. Oh, one of the new affiliates carrying the Alex Jones Show in Utah. Greg, you're on the air. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I'm glad I got you on. I mean, out here, because this is the only station that carries it in Utah.
Great.
But anyway, I had a comment on this last subject, and parents need to listen, and listen very closely. Because how these drugs work is most depression comes from a conscience. A child is very impressionable, and he's learning how to deal with life. And when you put him on these drugs that take their conscience away, you're creating a monster. I mean, this is a very strategic drug that's used to destroy family. I've seen it in operation. I've seen people changed. Their whole personality, their whole countenance, everything changes. You're right.
It is creating a generation of monsters.
Yeah, because it burns their conscience out. And they try and tell them that there is no right and wrong. It's just what makes you feel good.
Good point.
That's the bottom line.
What city are you based in there in Utah?
Delta. We're in central Utah.
Okay.
We pretty much, the station covers all the way from Salt Lake City all the way down to the southern border, and most places in between. We got the best coverage, for an AM radio station out here.
Wow, great!
And I think we're waking people up out here, because I went into the guns, just a sporting goods store the other day, and the poor guy is a friend of mine that works there. He says it's just been hell. He says all he does is fill out applications and sell guns. I mean, it's just been a constant.
Well, that was my question for you. What is the consensus there in Utah, which tends to be a state of a lot of liberty-minded individuals? What are you seeing right there with not only the gun restrictions, but psych drugs also?
Yeah, let's put it this way: when deer season rolls around, they actually take a day and a half off before the hunt. nobody goes to school because everybody's preparing to go on the hunt.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's like a national holiday here.
Yeah.
I've talked to a couple people in the school, and they've decided, they are concealed carry, and they are going to announce that fact. That,
yeah,
hey,
carry in the schools.
And we are in the school.
Well, that story, we just read that in the previous hour, a town in Utah, let me see if I can find what this is, but they are going to train teachers to carry concealed in the classrooms in Utah. I don't know what city this is, but it's in Utah.
Well, yeah. I talked to someone who was pulled over the other day, and the sheriff asked him, "You got a gun in your car?" And he says, "Yes, I do." And the sheriff asked him, "Is it loaded?" And he says, "No." And he goes, "Why not?"
Yeah, exactly. I had a gun instructor ask me that question one time too. Is it chambered? No. Why not? If you carry concealed, it should be chambered.
I mean, right there in the proclamation for hunting, the hunting proclamation, it says you can only have a loaded firearm, a pistol, a handgun in your vehicle. In other words, you can't carry a loaded rifle.
Right.
Because that would encourage poaching. But as long as you have permission from the owner of the vehicle, you can carry a loaded weapon.
All right, we're going to go to break, Greg.
So telling you.
But good comments. Good talking to you, and thanks for your call, and thank you for your station carrying this broadcast. We'll be back with Alex Jones himself. Stay with us.
We're on the show.
All right, it is an exciting Friday. A lot happening here on the Alex Jones Show. This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, filling in for Alex today. But he will be joining us in just a matter of minutes with a breaking announcement. They are working on the final details of that announcement right now. He'll be here in just a few minutes, and we will introduce him. And, well, he needs no introduction, but we'll bring him in and let him announce what he's going to announce. Let's summarize things in the meantime. Here's what's going on. This is a summary of everything that's happened so far today on this broadcast. We've got the Facebook censorship of all political speech that is pro-gun or pro-Second Amendment. We've got Facebook shutting down multiple accounts, including 9/11 truthers, pro-gun rights websites. They shut us down yesterday. We were able to get reactivated. They shut InfoWars accounts down. I think some of them have been reactivated since then. But everybody's been warned that if you post anything else that Facebook considers to be, I don't know, offensive, liberty-minded maybe? I guess if you post a quote from George Washington, you're going to get kicked off their site now. So there's that story. There is more censorship coming, I believe, across probably search engines and other social networks, so watch for that. Then we've got the story that we really uncovered here today, which is why is there no video footage of the Sandy Hook shooter, Adam Lanza, carting a Bushmaster rifle around the school there? And we found another news report, an NBC news report, that says he left his rifle in his car. And it increasingly appears that that rifle was probably not involved in this shooting at all, or at least based on current information. So why have they not released that video? If he was carrying a rifle shooting children in the school, they would have loved to show that video on the air to drive home the point that, oh, it's the guns, it's the guns, it's the guns. That would be part of their gun control mantra. So I'm shocked. I'm shocked that we're not seeing that footage yet. It must mean there's something in the footage that they don't want us to see. And if he was carrying a rifle, why did they let him into the school in the first place? Because they have security cameras and they have locked doors. Why did they let a 20-year-old kid with a rifle into the school? Then we've got the issue of Senator Feinstein. Sorry, I just looked at her face for a second there. I got to recover from that one. Give me some superfoods, people. I'm going to cover that up and just talk about her instead, but she's pushing this gun control agenda that is calling for an Adolf Hitler-style gun registration, which, of course, is always followed by gun confiscation, and now there's a new petition up on Infowars.com by Paul Joseph Watson. Well, his story covers it. The petition calls for Dianne Feinstein to be tried for treason, and we encourage you to go to Infowars.com right now, check out that petition, sign it, and help raise alarm over people in the Senate who are trying to destroy our Bill of Rights and essentially gut our nation's freedoms and take your freedoms with it. We've got this report of the wrong man being arrested and dragged into a psychiatric hospital and put on schizophrenia drugs just because he resembled an escaped psychiatric patient. That has come out now, so you could just be walking down the street, and if you look like a psychiatric patient, you can be arrested and forcibly drugged against your will. We've got the other story of Adam Lanza's body being exploited, the DNA harvested from his body so that they can create a genetic profile of what they call the evil gene. Yes, so now you're going to be profiled to see if you have the evil gene. And what another wonderful liberal excuse to abort babies. They can do the evil gene test before the child is even born. And then if the baby has the evil gene, they can justify another abortion. But hey, why even put a time limit on it? You can abort a baby after it's born, according to the liberals, even up to 3 years old. You can have a genetic test of, let's say, your 2-year-old child. And if that test comes back positive that that child has the evil gene, you can do a post-birth abortion, according to the liberals. Yeah, post-birth abortion. I know we used to call that murdering babies, but today it's just a post-birth abortion because everything's a word game now, including the word assault rifle. There's another word game. Even if this Bushmaster was involved in the shooting, which I'm now doubting, it certainly was not an assault rifle. It didn't have full auto function. Wasn't an assault rifle. It was a semi-auto rifle. Nevertheless, that's a summary of where we are right now today, all leading up to this moment where Alex Jones joins us right here in the studio with his big announcement, and here he is.
Mike, it is great to be here with you. First off, when you started the broadcast earlier today, you were talking about the petition to go into federal court and begin the charges of treason against Dianne Feinstein. Our country was born out of British citizens when the government tried to come and confiscate their legally owned firearms. In fact, they had their blunderbuss, their long rifles, their muskets, all of it. They also had cannons. The citizens had their military arms to protect themselves. Those were the right of free men. It's just that simple. And when you look at Dianne Feinstein, this is a globalist operative. This is a psychopathic, authoritarian, overtly evil person.
Absolutely.
The biggest problem I hear from so-called conservative talk radio is it's how the liberals are dumb and the liberals are stupid and how they don't know what they're doing. They all have bodyguards. They're all into guns.
Yep.
You know, Bloomberg owns his own helicopters and, sits there and lobbies, for more and more armaments and weapons for his detail. They are in control because they have a lust for power, and they've gotten rid of all of our basic liberties. They're trying to get rid of the First Amendment right now. You talk about what Facebook's doing with the purge. You talk about cybersecurity. You talk about now how they say they're going to genetically profile people that are aggressive and not let you get government health care to have your child, even if you have your own money, if you don't agree to your embryo being government approved.
Well, hey, they're getting the DNA from Lanza's dead body to profile for the evil gene now.
No, exactly. This is all about we're all guilty, we're all bad, we're all criminals. Gun owners are murderers, gun owners are racist, gun owners are Ku Klux Klan, while the establishment itself are raving authoritarian trash. And so it is not extreme to call her a treasonous, treacherous, larcenous witch when she's trying to steal the most bedrock of liberties. If you can't be armed, and because you lose your rights because somebody else does something bad, you're not living in a free society. So last Sunday on the show, on the broadcast, a caller called in from Arkansas and said, you should have a petition for gun-free zones around politicians where they don't have bodyguards with submachine guns and with semi-automatic handguns or full auto or whatever. They fetishize. Whenever I was at Bilderberg in 2008, when Hillary and Obama drove in the Secret Service motorcade of about 8 different big black SUVs, Suburbans, they lifted up with MP5 Heckler, H&K, 9mm, and the Secret Service, it's on video, lifted it up and pointed it at us. We're standing there. We're citizens with bullhorns. They don't like that. They were saying, hey, we're Mao Zedong. Our power grows out of a barrel of a gun like it was going to scare us. And we had Marines, who they had as the protective detail for the State Department. They had Marines out there on the grounds, and occasionally when they didn't think a camera was aiming, they would put a rifle up and aim it at us to intimidate us. So this is a criminal government class that's taken our money, built its giant military-industrial complex infrastructure that Eisenhower warned us about, who is now openly telling us, that's...
And 1.6 billion rounds of ammo.
Yeah, let's do a document cam for viewers of that. The document cam shot's right over there by the mouse. Hold it right there, and they can give a shot for viewers out there of that. That's the standard area right there to show it.
But yeah, the government's...
Yeah, there you go. Guns are bad. He's sitting on top of 1.6 billion rounds, tens of millions of guns, armored vehicles, tanks, all of it. But he's pointing down at the American gun owner, saying guns are bad. He's bombing people, tripling what Bush did. The numbers are now out, tripling drones, saying it's okay to kill 200 innocent people to get one bad guy, blowing children's faces off, arms and legs off, but then fake crying. So here's the big announcement. Last Sunday, the caller called in, and I just got so busy, over the week, I didn't put it out. But another one was put out about gun-free zones around politicians, saying they can't have guns and people can't have guns. And somebody else did it because we didn't do it, and that's great. It's got about 6,000 signatures, and Adon Salazar wrote an article about it that just went up at Infowars.com. But above that, red-linked, is the Kurt Nimmo article and the petition I wrote this morning with Kurt and posted just an hour ago to whitehouse.gov. And people say, well, White House is going to ignore what you do. Doesn't matter. The media, the public sees it. See, they use small petitions to call for banning guns a week after, saying, look, the people want it. Right. I'm going to take your guns. The idea of a democracy versus a republic. So we're going in there, even if they ignore our petitions, and using it as a focal point. So there it is. Petition calls for gun-free zones at White House and federal buildings. And we're also calling, again, for all federal security forces, feds, for them to turn their guns in. Because what we've been told, Mike, and they've actually said the guns did this. They say the guns come out, and the guns come out at night, and they become animated like a cartoon, and at midnight they dance around. Like something out of Fantasia and Night on Bald Mountain. Go ahead.
Well, it's brilliant because it's using their own logic against them. Their own logic says that the gun-free zone sign is what stops gun violence. So, and if they disarm the schools, the children will be safe, they say. So, yeah, you're right. Yeah, Let's disarm the White House. They'll be safe then.
The communists took guns all over Europe and in Australia and New Zealand and England and Wales and Scotland and Ireland in the 80s and 90s. They would send in people on the mental patient list or government toadies or known pedophiles, providing pedophiles to the police and others, or providing children to them. That's come out with these characters. We know they've been caught doing it before, who go in and shoot kids up in a school. So they had the same plan here. In 1990, they come in, they pass a law, no guns, period, in schools. Not teachers, not concealed carry, not parents, not anybody. And then they advertised, don't come to the school and kill people, to get mentally ill people or their operatives to go do it. Then they use the kill zones. See, crime's gone down, as we showed in the FBI statistics, precipitously all over the U.S. because gun ownership's gone up the last 20 years. Right. They're desperate. They're losing. That idea of the government can't protect you, and the witch Feinstein, who has her own concealed carry and her own bodyguards, and Michael Moore, whose bodyguard got arrested at the airport with a gun. They've got their guns. They're dominators. The instinct of the dictator, the instinct of the pig, of the control freak, the instinct of the king rat, the instinct of the control freak, the instinct of the psychopath, the instinct of the Mao Zedong is to take the guns so only they have the guns. Hitler, Stalin, Mao, the ancient Romans took swords from their slaves. It's that simple. So we've launched, this just went up at Infowars.com. It is red-linked, our new petition written off of the actual unconstitutional federal law they've gotten, the Safe Schools Gun-Free Zone Act of 1990, saying, okay, you say no guns in an area makes it safe, actually makes it safe for the bad guys. We want the White House and every federal building to be gun-free. And we want all of the government training centers, since you've disarmed those public schools, we now want all the private schools like David Gregory of NBC, his kids go to with 11 armed guards.
Or Obama's kids.
Or Obama's daughter. We want the guns from those private security guards gone. Imagine being David Gregory last week with Wayne LaPierre of the NRA on television when Wayne LaPierre said, do what Israel did when they got attacked in schools, arm the teachers, which they did. The media later came out and said that wasn't true, thinking we're dumb when it's on record. Then Gregory came out to say that's preposterous, that won't keep you safe, knowing his daughters go to one of the only private schools in D.C. with armed guards.
Yeah, and then he showed, what, a 30-round magazine on the air, which was a violation of D.C. laws, so he becomes suddenly ensnared in his own gun control agenda.
Exactly. So I want to fire the bat searchlight up here for alternative media, pro-liberty media out there, everybody. If you will go to Infowars.com, we're also going to post this, just went up at Prisonplanet.com, our backup site. If you will go there and get this and email it out to everyone and email it out to local talk show hosts, we'll get enough of a buzz going on this to really expose the hypocrisy of Obama and the fact that he's protected with guns, but that he doesn't want your children to be protected with guns. And we're also going to add to this the video and the interview Jakari Jackson did with the Texas superintendent who 5 years ago armed their teachers because their the closest police station's 30 minutes away, so they can protect their people. We either go on the offensive or lose our Second Amendment. And again, I want to give credit here and talk about Piers Morgan. Then we'll go to break. I'll come back. We'll do a final segment with Doug Hagmann. You'll leave us, and I'll come back for a full hour continuing with Doug Hagmann and then phone calls. But I want to make this point right now. It's a great exercise in media disinformation and control that when the magnanimous, mighty king of true media, drudgereport.com last Friday, picked up on our White House petition and linked to Infowars.com and gave us the credit. And we're not looking for the credit. It just is wrong when it's not given. It's unjournalistic. And it shows how scared the old dinosaur media is, Mike, because he put that up. Now, our listeners already circulated. It had like 6,000, 7,000 signatures. It was going to be a news story.
Yeah.
But Drudge put it up, and Huffington Post attacked it. And the Atlantic Wire attacked it, and some others attacked Drudge. But then the media picked it up. I don't think of everything I've done in 17 years we've ever had, some days 3,000, 4,000 articles a day. But only I could count on two hands the number that said, hey, it was Infowars.com. It was...
It was credit.
Again, well, it's not even about that. It's that any other time they'll say who did the petition.
Of course.
But in this case, they didn't give Infowars.com credit. They didn't give DrudgeReport.com credit, which is just amazing. And then they ran around and spun it and said, we're anti-free speech. No, he's trying to get rid of our right to the Second Amendment and to self-defense. He, as a foreigner, has a right to his opinion. He doesn't have a right to come here as a subversive. The reason I'm getting into this now is I didn't really talk about it yesterday, and I should have. I was so focused on the open announcements that they want to register, fingerprint all gun owners, and ban physically most guns.
But Piers Morgan is not an American citizen. He does not have the Bill of Rights. If he wanted a Bill of Rights, he should have fought for it like our founding fathers did.
Well, he didn't. His ancestors fought against it.
Exactly.
But exactly. The issue is he is clearly involved in what they call an attempted overthrow of our Bill of Rights and Constitution. Because our Bill of Rights and Constitution, it is the government. It is we the people. It is the country. It is what the flag symbolizes. And so when Dianne Feinstein attacks it, she's a traitor. She's engaged in sedition because she's a citizen, even though she really is just a globalist operative, an enemy within, to quote Cicero. But to expand on that, Mike, under the Supreme Court rulings, because within hours the Wall Street Journal came out and defended our petition, still didn't give us credit, but whatever, and said, no, here's the Supreme Court ruling from the 70s with communists that would come here calling for an overthrow of the Bill of Rights because they always want tyranny once they get control. It is subversion. So he is guilty of subversion. He is guilty of subversion.
20 seconds.
And it's just amazing that it got this much attention. So the goal was met to point we've got foreign globalists in here in our face trying to dictate and control our internal politics. We'll be back with Mike Adams, Doug Hagmann, and more. I'm your host, Alex Jones, riding shotgun with Mike Adams of naturalnews.com.
All right, we're back on the Alex Jones Show. Thank you for joining us. This is Mike Adams riding shotgun with Alex Jones himself in the studio here, who just announced a major news-making petition, and I'll let you continue with...
Well, again, thanks for coming in and doing 2.5 hours of the show. I'm going to come back and do an hour with Doug Hagmann. I'm going to do about 20 minutes with him and then get into some other news. You were telling me I missed it, even though I checked the site a lot. DrudgeReport.com had the headline. You were saying, Civil War, they're coming for the handguns.
Yeah, that was, I think, yesterday or the day before. It said, Civil War, they're coming for your handguns.
Well, that is exactly what they're announcing. For those that don't know, they're saying that whatever guns we let you keep, we're going to register. And whatever guns that we take is basically up to us. Fingerprinting, all of this, they follow this exact pattern.
Yeah.
Once they register, they then always ban.
Yes.
I mean, this is so hardcore. And more you look at Sandy Hook, I got to say it looks like Operation Gladio. Looks like Operation Northwoods, both of which were U.S. government plans to stage mass shootings and blame liberties. So we're going to do a report on that on Monday. I'll also be back live Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. with the Sunday show, breaking all of this down. But in closing, I just want to give credit to naturalnews.com, drudgereport.com, infowars.com, all the real media that actually supports the Bill of Rights and Constitution. We're seeing an anemic, pathetic defense of the Second Amendment.
We're finding out who the real
by mainline Republican sites. We're seeing mainline Republicans in droves come out and say it's reasonable to turn your semi-autos in because the foreign banks pay for them. They are the ones giving them the money. So again, I think this can be an even bigger petition to draw attention to the treasonous activity of the gun grabbers than the Piers Morgan one.
Oh, yeah.
So I never asked Drudge to link to stuff, but if Drudge, and crew are out there listening, and if they think this is an important petition, I know if it goes up on the mighty Drudge, it will get out there. But regardless, if listeners go to Infowars.com and get the article, Petition Calls for Gun-Free Zone at White House and federal buildings, and we go on to call for private schools attended by politicians to have their guns taken as well.
Yeah.
Because the politicians don't send their kids to government training camps where they've been disarmed. Now, there's loopholes in the federal law to allow the arming of teachers and principals like Texas is doing. We need to, and we're going to have that added to the article, about the petition so people can get this out too and say this is the model. But as you said, we're illustrating their absurdity, their hypocrisy, their fraud of David Gregory and others in this article that links to the petition. And we need to get this petition, even though Obama's going to ignore it. We got, I'd probably say $15, $20 million of media coverage. There are companies that try to get a story as big as that Piers Morgan and spend millions and can't do it, okay?
True, yeah.
Okay, globalists can't get something out like that. We're using logic, and the truth trumps propaganda and lies. And so if we, the people, this petition's even better. Again, we've pointed out we got a red coat telling us what to do. England's got a petition saying don't send him back. Piers Morgan is in trouble.
Please don't send us Piers Morgan.
Okay, again, we use their fake petition system that Obama cherry picks against them. If people get this petition calls for gun-free zones at White House and federal buildings, calls for his detail to be disarmed. Because again, they say no guns means less crime.
Of course.
Even though that's not true, this will really show their hypocrisy if we can get the corporate whore media, the snot-nosed Atlantic Wire, to come out and go, look at the pathetic Drudge and Jones. Look at the pathetics. They think people are going to sign this petition. No one's going to sign it. That's what they first said Friday night.
We can get
that blew up in their face. Exactly. And again, the goal is to have the media snot-nosed put us down and say that, oh, that's ridiculous saying take the president's people's guns. It'll blow up in their face. And see, we got to fight them hard on this. We got to go after them.
Yeah.
We got to hit them every level. That's why they went after Wayne LaPierre and said, how dare you say Israel has guns to make their kids safe? That's not true.
All right,
they had to lie because the truth would defeat them. Sorry, go ahead.
That's the broadcast today. Overdrive with Alex Jones and Doug Hagmann straight ahead. Stay with us.
OD, baby.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to GCN.
Ladies and gentlemen, I get so wound up when I have taken a few days off that really all I'm doing is pacing around my house like a Bengal tiger and uploading news reports to YouTube and Prisonplanet.tv. And so I was kind of gibbering in the last 15 minutes because I got in the studio late because I was printing off the Kurt Nimmo article. So I ran short on time breaking down our initiative to just use this White House petition system that they wanted to be able to cherry pick and say, oh, the people want to turn their guns in, or the people want UN takeover, or the people want to, have 90% tax rates. Or now we can use the White House petition to really backfire against the globalist. And so I'm going to be breaking some of that down after Doug Hagmann leaves us in about 20 minutes of HomelandSecurityUS.com. That's their great website. The reason I wanted to get Doug back on was I was listening to the rebroadcast, and I was so hyped up yesterday that we didn't really go over everything his source talked about who they're going to go after first, what they're going to do. We didn't really talk enough about the Facebook purges of now thousands of Facebooks because of the backlash. Some are being restored. Any Second Amendment, George Washington quotes, Mahatma Gandhi quotes, you're gone. So it is really amazing what's happening right now. But we've got to get on the offensive because it is the federal government that took the guns away from the American people in these gun-free zones. And they have the blood on their hands and then advertise the schools as a place to go shoot. And they're openly trying to disarm us. They're disgusting. We have to call them on the bluff now. They are all in. Now, we're going to go to break here in about 3 minutes, but going to Doug Hagmann of the Northeast Intelligence Network. Doug, give us a snapshot of what you're going to break down. When we come back to the next segment, I'm going to really give you the floor to go over everything your DHS source told you, because you were unable to get to all of it because of my hyperventilating.
Well, Alex, I'll tell you what, my source told me pretty much exactly what their plans are and what their contingency plans are. They've got plan A, B, C, and D, whereas one of my sources calls that a no single point failure. So they're going to come at us on multiple levels. It's just not going to be the legislative level. It's going to be through executive orders, through global initiatives, through health initiatives. It's really an insidious situation. And they're not only coming after the guns, Alex, they're coming after the mouthpieces. They're coming after the Alex Joneses of the world and Doug Hagmann's and others who speak the truth. That's the key here. That's what people have to understand. Any political dissidents is, in fact, what they're going after. They want to, we're looking at a communist initiative. No two ways about it. This is what's taking place. So when we come back, I can give you pretty much a step-by-step analysis as to what, what they're going to do or what they intend to do, a couple of their backup plans, and how this connects to the United Nations even. So this is. Oh,
of course it does. That's in 7277, the State Department plan. They've tried this before. Now they think they're about to get it. We're going under UN rule, under a UN treaty.
Absolutely, like it or not. And I see on the internet where people say, well, the treaties have to be ratified. Well, of course they do. However, the end arounds being conducted by this administration should make it clear to everyone. This regime has no concern for the rule of law or the will of the American people. It's their will. That's what we're looking at.
That's it. We are going into a dictatorship of foreign megabanks. That isn't just something we're saying. They don't care. They're going ahead with it. And it will wreck this country, which is their plan to consolidate power. Doug Hagmann. And again, recap when we come back, what your source told you, the intel about the source, how big a deal this is. And then after he leaves us in a couple segments, I will break down all the latest news. But the new petition is up at Infowars.com. Ladies and gentlemen, if you go to Prisonplanet.com and Infowars.com right now, red link at the top of the site, petition calls for gun-free zone at White House and federal buildings. That means Dianne Feinstein, that has her own concealed carry, and 5 bodyguards with submachine guns. They've got to be taken because the guns are what caused the crime. We're not allowed to have guns to protect ourselves. Our children aren't allowed to be protected by trusted people in the school. You aren't. The petition has now gone live. Get it and get it out to everyone. Very important information up at Infowars.com. There's another petition to try Dianne Feinstein for treason. We've got to get on the offensive or lose everything. For the next 2 segments, I'm going to give Doug Hagmann the floor to break down from his DHS source what we're facing. But everything his source is breaking down is already there in mainstream news in pieces. Also, The Economist magazine, that's like the Bilderberg Group's mouthpiece, is calling for a total gun ban, all guns to be handed in. The Economist calls for repealing Second Amendment entirely. That's a Steve Watson article, but he links to their editorial where they call for that. Michael Moore says you are racist if you own a gun and you're white, period. And you're like, that doesn't make sense. They want division in this country. They want to demonize gun owners. You're the new terrorist. Homeland Security, I told you 11 years ago, was set up to go after patriots. It's always been about that. And now everybody's going to find out. And I've seen so many comments. Most people are waking up, but some are like, I don't care. I don't own guns. A lot of people didn't own guns in China when Mao took them, but they found out that he wanted the guns to then do really bad things. Same thing with Hitler, Stalin, others. It's what goes along with this. It's all the other tyranny, the warrantless wiretapping, the checkpoints, the power to tax, the power to destroy. Every time I see an image of Dianne Feinstein come up on my website, it just freaks me out. Guys, punch up my screen real quick. This photo of her, but when you watch her on video, I mean, she just reeks of witch and evil and corruption and domination, and she hates everything this country stands for. Why do we put up with these pigs? These globalist usurpers. I mean, listen, let me explain something. There are going to be millions of people that won't turn in their guns out of the 160 million plus gun owners. And that's what the system wants. They want to wage war on us, and it will cause a war. That's what all the analysts say. It's what common sense shows. And look, the American people aren't just going to sit here while you go pick us off and drag us off to your dungeons. Our criminal government runs torture bases all over the world. Our country's gone. And if we don't wake up to the fact we're in deep trouble and get out of the trance, there's no future. But I'm begging everyone on this Friday transmission, go to the website now and get this petition so that the White House is gun-free, so that all the government buildings and the private schools the politicians send their kids to are disarmed. And if you send your kids to a private school that has armed guards, because I know a lot of rich people do that, no one's going to... Rich people are always going to have armed guards for their kids. This is for the general public to be disarmed so the criminal state can absolutely abuse the population. By the way, Herman von Rompuy, head of the EU, has come out and called for global government to merge Russia with the EU. That was always the plan. Incredible. There's even video of it. The point is that it's all happening. You can't be armed inside a world government. It's about the UN treaty. For this segment and the next, now I'm going to sit back and give Doug Hagmann, who's got his DHS source similar to some of mine, breaking down how they're going to drop the hammer, what their plan is, how they're going to use even outside of law, mental health to go after the guns, what they already admit they're going to try to ban most guns and make us fingerprint for even a revolver. I mean, total licensure so they can then just stop issuing the licenses, turning the Second Amendment into a privilege. This is it. So I'm going to try to shut up, Doug. For this segment, the next, you've got the floor. Give us your report. Break it down.
Well, thanks, Alex. And I'll tell you what we're seeing right now, what we're seeing take place right now is something that we wrote about back in May 8th of this year, as a matter of fact. In fact, I was on your program in early May. About this, my DHS contact stated that the objective of Obama during his second term is to disarm the American public. Obviously, the intent was to exploit shootings. A shooting would occur. Certainly, we would use that event to create the environment, the fertilizing environment to essentially create the ability for people to legislate, or the Congress to legislate new gun laws. Now, knowing, and these people are not stupid. People say that Obama is ignorant. Well, he's not. And he's surrounded himself by revolutionaries. My DHS source is telling me, look, the Bill Ayers of the world, the Bernadine Dorns of the world, and those two in particular, and Valerie Jarrett, and Van Jones, and Sustein, all the people you talk about and that we talk about, all of these people are influencing the decision-making process to the extent that the goal and objective is to disarm the American public so we cannot fight back against their objectives, which is the total. It's not the transformation of America. It is the destruction of America. And people have to understand that. It is destroying America. They don't want America to survive. They don't want to change America. And if people understood, the very people who are the cheerleaders for Obama, if the very people who are the cheerleaders for him understood that they are working for a seat at the table they're not going to have, then things would be a little bit different, perhaps. But according to my source within the DHS, they are working very closely with the Republican Party, as you have pointed out. There's no difference between the Republicans and Democrats right now. We know that. They're working together against the objectives, or against the Constitution, against the American people, against the will of the American people. People think there's a difference. There's not. The fiscal cliff. It's all a matter of conditioning, mental conditioning of the American public. This is what's taking place. So when the Sandy Hook shooting took place, and by the way, Alex, I've got some concerns about that shooting. I think you've covered some of them on air, but I personally have some, as an investigator for the last 30 years, I've got some concerns about that. There's some unanswered questions there, and there's certainly some media manipulation there. But that said, the exploitation of that, and the hanging on the emotion of that, using the bodies of 20 children to advance a political agenda, shows you the depth of depravity that this regime is going to. So you've got the Feinsteins introducing legislation that's clearly unconstitutional, clearly, and it perhaps won't succeed. But Plan B is this. Plan B is for Obama to use his executive powers to implement the agenda to require everyone that wants to own a gun to undergo just an incredible permit background type thing. Ultimately, you won't be able to own a gun because you will be classified essentially as a political dissident or mentally impaired through PTSD because of your wartime service, or if you are on any type of medication that could be classified that could affect your ability to handle a weapon. Not only mentally, but physically, in fact, then what we've got here is a perfect storm for that particular the recipe, I suppose, if you will, to create the inability or to create the. Sorry about that, Alex.
Doug, you're absolutely on target there in your newsroom. But just to interject here for a moment, I'm going to skip this network break that's coming up to give you as much time as possible in the next 10 minutes or so. But I want to add this point. Right here, I have a globe, and we're going under global governance. The nation states are being annihilated. The globalists admit under their State Department Plan 7277, after they've disarmed the people, they will disarm the militaries of the world, and then only the UN and NATO will have a military. This is a program. This is a big idea. This is a new world order, and that's why the United Nations on our East Coast in New York City is going along with this program because they do not care what we think. They've even got it factored in that there'll be resistance, and they're just going to call us terrorists. And all the fools that don't understand something, NAFTA-GATT, that Clinton said would be so great, it destroyed our economy. All these deals, the people that do support Obama are such suckers. But I want to add this key point. We've looked at the numbers. Congress has a 9% approval rating. Government is universally hated. Obama, Romney, that was all just a big staged election. They don't really have a mandate. They want to create the illusion that even though most of us are awake, that they do have a mandate, or that we're a democracy, and if 51% say turn the guns in, that's what happens when we're a republic. I want to state something clearly here. If they try to physically take the guns, or they start harassing gun owners and using extrajudicial executive orders, that is criminal. And if Obama commits a murder, he's still a murderer. And if Dianne Feinstein breaks the law, she still breaks the law. America has got to rediscover its distrust of government because we are on fire with tyranny. We are collapsing right now, and they don't care if it's unpopular. They're going after guns. We see the arrogance, and I see Democrats on YouTube commenting, hey, Alex, you're crazy thinking we're going to take your guns, so we're going to take your guns because that's crazy. See, the Democrats on average are these control freaks who think of themselves, mainline Democrats, as powerful, and they have power through the system. And they fantasize like Soviets about the mental health system. These are very, very sick people, but they're a tiny minority of the so-called intelligentsia that, you know, all have government jobs and don't know how to tie their shoelaces. Go ahead.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, they are. See, people have to understand that the what's being thrown at us right now is asymmetrical warfare to implement communist goals for the purpose of the communist goals here in America is a stepping stone toward the one world order, the new world order that George H.W. Bush talked about on September 11th, 1990. We are seeing an important step for that implementation take place right now. And just so people understand this, look, just because I'm talking about Obama right now, that does not mean that it's simply Obama only. This has been, as you know, and as you point out, and as your listeners know, this has been in progress for many years, for decades, for a generation, more than a generation, actually. So, you know, it's not a partisan issue. It's not a political issue. This is an issue that has its roots in evil. But and my source at the DHS has told me flat out, look, you don't understand the evil that these people, the level of evil that exists within these people. And the words that they use, the words that are on the television, for example, fiscal cliff, which people think, well, that has nothing to do with the gun legislation or gun grab or whatever. It has everything to do with it.
They're putting us into an artificial collapse. Describe who they're going to go after first. Go over these points. We know about DHS settling all these sex claims with this command base of dominant women in there doing things we can't even say on air, and they settled. I mean, these are abnormal, crazy people. People ask, why did Hitler do things? Why do all these other leaders do bad things? Because it's what they're into. These are deviant, miscreant criminals. They look at what communists and Soviets have done. And again, these are banker-funded communists.
They are. They're going to look. The first people they're going to go after are the people who are vocally and visibly causing the trouble, massing the troops, so to speak. People like you, people like me, or perhaps not. I mean,
but our answer to that is to turbocharge in their face. If we bend over to them, they win. This is all a bluff with these chicken necks. I'll never give in to Feinstein and her flying monkeys.
And nor will we, and we have to. But see, one of the litmus tests, and you brought this out earlier. One of the litmus tests, the beta tests that were used, that was used by the Department of Homeland Security to test the will of the American people, is the TSA. How much will the average American take? And they used that TSA model to see, can we nuke them? Can we take nude pictures, if you will, of them? Can we feel them up? See, that's all part of that conditioning process. But they're also looking at who's complaining. And when I said that there are lists being compiled of those who do complain about this treatment, people laughed, but they're using that.
Oh, no, that actually came out. And again, you're supposed to get scared and go, oh, well, then take my wife behind closed doors. No, these are drills to practice taking your husband at a checkpoint and you never see him again. They just want to get you phased in till you're going down for some questioning now, and then you're never seen again. This is a Red Dawn takeover.
Yeah, this country, as I was told, is a captured operation. We're already a captured operation. We're already operating from behind enemy lines.
I was going to say that this morning. We've been captured. We need to wake up and admit that if we have any hope.
Exactly, and that was one point that my source really wanted to drive home for for me to understand is the fact that the people in charge right now are the enemy, are the very people that we should be fighting against. We have to put our foot down with respect to what's going on and preserve our constitutional rights bestowed upon us by our Creator.
And demand mainline Republicans come out and call them enemies. They're not dumb liberals who want our guns because they care and they're just wrong. They probably did the shooting. All the evidence is there. I mean, they did Fast and Furious, like Larry Pratt said. If they did that, they do anything. This is a murdering mafia. I'm risking my life to fight them because we can't give the whole world to these people.
But see, the moment, and my source said this, the moment that you begin, that I begin, anyone begins to go into the weeds in that area, to question the official storyline of Oklahoma City, to question anything like 9/11, to question the shooting, obviously we're nothing but kooks, and that's the official, they want to embarrass us into that.
Because the known liars caught lying thousands of times told us so.
Exactly. And the lie is different at every level, according to one of my sources. The lie is different at every level. At every level, people have to understand that and really understand what that means, because we are being lied. Everything around us is a lie. Look, Benghazi. That's a window to what this administration is.
8 hours Obama ordered stand down, got caught, doesn't get in trouble, had a CIA torture base down the street, never stopped the torture, gave over 10,000 missiles to Al-Qaeda. I predicted they start shooting down airliners. Now they've done it. And our media says, isn't it great the rebels are shooting down passenger liners? It's like oh, my God.
Yeah, I got blood pressure medicine here myself. Look, and here's the thing. We are being set up for a perfect storm in 3 areas. Number one, we will be engaged in a regional conflict that will turn into a world war based on our actions in Syria, because Syria is the red line for Russia. Number two, the economy. The dollar is toast. Lindsey Williams basically said as much. Others, Gerald Celente, Max Kaiser, said as much. We are going to face an economic collapse here in this country like we've never seen before. They know that, and they are timing this gun grab to make sure that we are defenseless when this happens. And by the way, when this does happen, and it will happen, when this does happen, if you want food, if you want medical care, whatever you need, if you want shelter or need shelter, you better bring your guns. And oh, by the way, if you've got a neighbor, or if a neighbor is in need, that neighbor is going to be, that neighbor is going to have to say, well, Doug down the road here, he's got several weapons that he hasn't turned in.
I'm now confirming reports that state police are pulling people over in rural areas, running their plates. They know you have no criminal record, and they wait by your house and ask, what guns do you have in there, to fill out a terrorist report on you. Those little special reports they do.
And see, that's all. You're exactly right. I've got the same reports. This is part of standard operating procedure for traffic stops, for stop and frisks, for various law enforcement. And they're going to bring the TSA in, as we mentioned yesterday. They're going to bring the TSA in to facilitate this criminal activity by the police departments. They are going to commission, to assist in the gun grab, to assist in the oppression of rights. They're going to commission the TSA. The TSA they're not commissioned law enforcement officers. We all know that. But after, because of the need, they will be. So it's crazy, Alex. And you've done a great job in pointing it out, but I got to tell you, this is just the beginning. We're just seeing.
Okay, listen, I've been jumping in again. I'm going to give you 5 more minutes if you can do it on the other side to get into any other points he made that you haven't gotten to, or recap the whole thing and how we fight back against it as well. Then I'm going to get into a bunch of big breaking news and give the number out and take a few of your phone calls. All this and more straight ahead. Our new petition is up there to disarm the president.
We're on the march. The empire.
Logic, truth, common sense, individualism are menaces to the tyranny. You know, last numbers I saw, and there's some new ones out, the number of combat suicides and military suicides are 7-fold the previous record in the early 1970s at the end of the Vietnam War. And if you're watching on prisonplanet.tv, We can punch it up on screen here. U.S. soldier suicides outnumber combat deaths in 2012. Well, yeah, you're working them too hard, and you're putting them on suicide pills. I mean, all those psychiatric drugs they put them on so they can later take their Second Amendment, actually make them crazy. And it goes over the fact from CBS News that is happening. Ladies and gentlemen, the globalists see you as animals, as dirt to be used. They're all about how to manipulate you. The globalists don't even talk to you, don't even see you as real unless you address them head on. Okay? These are horrible demons. Our country has been seized by criminals, but they've got you so scared your kids are going to be killed because they're hyping it, when statistically it's one of the rarest things in this country. And only in areas they advertise as shooting galleries for their operatives and mental patients, who are their operatives one way or the other. They're all products of their system, all fruit from their vine, their tree. And they are moving against us headlong right now. We are in a Mayday situation, and I know I keep saying that. I'm jumping out of bed at like 4 a.m. now, ready to go to work. Used to it was 6 in the morning, then 5:30. I mean, I can't stop thinking about it because I know I'm right. And sure, logic, you know it's all a fraud, but the general public, even if they know it's a fraud, they just go, well, that's the way it is. No, that isn't the way it has to be. Speak out at church, everywhere. Doug Hagmann, I want to let you finish up with any other points your DHS source told you, plus it's all confirmed, plus more on solutions, because don't comply with the system. Sabotage it any way you can, legally and lawfully, so that we don't have to do it other ways later. But when the government's fully far and run and openly involved in tyranny and breaking every law, pretty soon it becomes, discretion is not the better part of valor. Discretion becomes cowardice. And I don't want violence, period. But there's a Rubicon that's crossed, I guess, when they really shut down Alex Jones, Doug Hagmann, George Norrie, Matt Drudge, people like that. We better use these venues now, not just my instincts, but my gut, but also history. My intellect tells me we better have maximum effort. So I'm thinking, what do I do to give maximum effort? Maybe another video on the history of gun control, on government killing 260+ million people last century alone, non-military combatants after gun control, University of Hawaii study. What do I do? I mean, I think it's what you said. All these, because there's a small group of fools out there that at least give the dress-up cover. They say very small percentage of those are going to Obama's coronation, second coronation. Used to be an inauguration. Now it's a coronation of our imperial puppet. And there are trendies who have their stickers and laugh. I was jogging this morning and actually had some guys... I could tell were Obama supporters, just the way they acted, like giggle and go, look, there's Alex Jones. You could just tell by the innate weirdness and weakness and unreality and unmasculinity of these guys. I mean, they giggled and laughed at me, but the point is that they look like they'd been put in a microwave oven. And I feel sorry for these useful idiots who will soon be useless to the system. Their whole future being destroyed. All actuaried where a smaller and smaller group of servants of the system will be allowed to operate while all of our treasure and money and ideas are siphoned off to build this global corporate empire. And just to have to look at all the servants and minions and pimps of this system, Doug, it's totally disgusting. So finish up your points, and then what are your ideas for our maximum effort, all of us, to really get at these people? I'm launching petitions because they get big attention to show their hypocrisy. I'm doing everything I can. I know George Norrie last night was fighting hard for Facebook not to censor, so they reversed themselves this morning. But that's a test. They're going to wear us out. I mean, what do we do?
Well, you're exactly right. This is a war of attrition at some levels. So what we have to do, and I talked at length with my source about this, what can we do? Or do we throw our hands up?
No, we totally commit. We totally commit.
That's exactly right. And here's the thing. We all have to, first of all, we have to understand what the problem is. You've defined it very well numerous times. Second of all, we have to hook up with like-minded people and obviously develop a plan and work a plan, because things will be tough, especially when the dollar does collapse. Trust but verify. Trust no one except those people that you verify that are really on your side. Watch for people infiltrating your groups. They are going to marginalize us before they take us down. They're going to make us look foolish, to make us look like fools on the internet before they pull the plug, obviously. So there's a value there to understand that. But here's the thing. The bottom line is don't comply, don't submit to anything that is not constitutional. Don't comply with the illegal checkpoints, the illegal search and seizures, the illegal grabs at the airports and by the TSA. And if you really, at the very heart of this, we have to stop feeding the beast. According to another one of my sources, one of the biggest things that they're afraid of is everyone stopping paying taxes, kind of like in Poland. Stop paying taxes. Stop feeding the beast. That's what they're really afraid of, because once that happens, you take away their money, and obviously, at that point, the war goes very hot, because they're after our money. Our money, of course, is a receipt, if you will, for our labor, our time.
They use our blood against us. So dig in at every level, speak out against them, resist them, demonize them because they are demons, expose them, discredit them. At every level, realize this is a war. We have a total hot authoritarian takeover. It's not just some creeping corruption anymore. That's my next question to you. Why are they wanting to hurry and get it all done? Because of the engineered collapse? Because once they engineer the collapse, they want to consolidate power. But if they don't have everything battened down, the collapse could be used, as Ron Paul has said, to wake up the people and take the republic back?
Yeah, you said it exactly. There is an agenda here. There is an acceleration of events taking place for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is where we find ourselves in the economic area of things. Another is the global state of affairs. We really have a perfect storm right now with respect to what's happening in Syria, with Iran, in Israel, in the Middle East, as well as the economy. They want to capitalize on this, and they know that Obama will be our last, and I shudder to use the term president. So they want to get everything done and buttoned up now while they can, because they've got a compliant puppet who's developed some of his own muscles, but yet he's a puppet in the Oval Office. And the people around him are the Fabian socialists, the communists, the people from the Antonio Gramsci School, Frankfurt School. That's who's running this country. And this is what we've got to look forward to. But I'll tell you, the DHS source said this: these people are cowards as well. If you stand up to them, think of them as bullies in the schoolyard. You stand up to them, in many cases, they will back down. So definitely we've got to... Yeah,
let them know. Don't call the White House and say, please don't do this. Say, we know you're foreign criminals. We know you're terrorists. We know you're scum. I mean, it's important. And I'd go to a local police station and say, hey, the NSA admits they're spying illegally. The government says they're coming after our guns. That violates the Constitution. You better decide which side you're on. I mean, it's time to get aggressive, folks.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. And I'll tell you what, I would urge everyone, and as I said before, you certainly don't need my endorsement, our endorsement, but I would urge everyone to follow what you are doing. You are at the tip of the spear. You've got a wide audience. You've got a great reach, and you affect a lot of people. People need really to get together under your... shall I say, leadership or guidance.
Well, it's not even that. Example. I mean, all I could say is we've studied history. It's not hard to know what was coming. Now it's here, and it's just going to get crazier. And if something happens to us too, folks, I see that as a major canary in the coal mine. So if they set me up with drugs, I don't use drugs. If they, God forbid, you know, as that police officer called in yesterday, he's told all his buddies, you know, if they say, you know, that I killed my wife and burned my house down, it's not true, folks. I'll never commit suicide. I'll never hurt my family. None of it's true. If I'm found dead in a hotel room with a hooker, folks, I wasn't with a hooker. You know, people need to understand this isn't a game. Doug, how arrogant are they? Is it waking up the federal sources you've got? Because I know this is one thing that I think's woken people up, and Bilderberg was concerned a year and a half ago about this in Libya. They're concerned now from our sources that the alternative media forced the New York Times, LA Times, and others to report that our government runs al-Qaeda in Libya and Syria, and it has them shooting down airliners and making father suicide bomb. So how does that work for the feds who've said, oh, the government wasn't involved in 9/11? Well, we didn't say that. Criminal elements were. Al-Qaeda was a creation of the globalists. They've been used to take down the Russians, the Serbs, now America. I mean, is that something you're getting back from your sources?
Oh, very much so. The level, the veil of transparency, the veneer of the shadows. Look, people are beginning to wake up, and there is a level of concern among the people, the higher levels, at the Napolitano levels. There's a level of concern there, saying, "Wait a minute, you know, I don't want people out there lynching me, stringing me up from the nearest oak tree for what I'm doing." So there is a concern there by shining the light of truth. And at the higher levels, however, there's a hubris. But at the mid levels,
exactly, because the Rockefellers and Rothschilds, the public doesn't even know their names. They're insulated. Even a Napolitano, witch that she is, and that weird group of deviant women around her who just. How does that affect morale, though, even with corrupt FBI people and folks they've hired to have weirdo women call you in and say, you know, do me favors and go live in the bathroom, you ugly man. I mean, these are crazy people. I mean, why are even the corrupt people serving such scum? I mean, when it's going to destroy the whole system. I mean, just so they can, because the globalists hate America and gun owners and Christians so much, folks, they'll burn everything just to get to us. I hope all you minions that serve the system and get invited down to the local CFR and get invited down to the head Mason Hall and get invited, you know, down to the local Federal Reserve meetings. You all think you're at the table because you got $100 million in the bank. They're going to take everything you've got, and you're going to be lucky if they just take everything you've got. See, when globalists steal from people and authoritarians do this, they're then going to trump up charges on you later, and they're going to kill you. So you know what's sick about this, Dean? Doug, I think of a Dean Hagmann, the X-Files guy, who I might get on the show soon. Doug, is that these guys don't know history. 100% of the time, the people that open the drawbridge to the traitors are all the first ones to get gutted.
You know, they may know history, but they think that they can change it. They've got this mental thought process where they're better than everyone else. They're different than everyone else. They're more capable. They're capable of changing history. That's what they're trying to do. That's the hubris. And you mentioned about that culture of just perversion that exists. Look, at that level, everyone has something in their background, and we saw that with Petraeus when he was taken on at the CIA. They knew that he was involved with Paula Broadwell. They knew it, and they held it over his head. See, that's how the system now works, and the more perverse that the situations are, or that the people are, the better things are. And it's like Caligula, and that was a term used by my contact at the DHS, like Caligula. And people have to understand the evil, the perversity behind it.
Well, when you look at the stuff that most of these top politicians are into, they don't let you in the club. You don't get the committee chairmanship unless you bare minimum have boyfriends and girlfriends, and that's not usually enough. To be a top general, they tell you got to cheat on your wife. We got to have photos of it. But to get into the upper rings, you got to do illegal stuff. And I don't think people get it. That's why history, you always have such evil people in control, is because only they're willing to do really evil stuff to be in power. and they want power so they can grab your little kid and rape them and cut their head off. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's what we've got up there is a bunch of people who don't just like hurting little kids. They like killing them. You know, Sandusky was providing kids to globalists all over the country. And look at who was all around him and who defended him. Top TV casters, top sportscasters, politicians, DHS people. Well, you bet they're protecting him because he was supplying them little kids. Go ahead, sir.
No, you make a great point here, because when we're talking about people like, for example, Hillary Clinton and people, her and people like her, people have to understand the mindset is different. You might not agree with what they do or believe in, but it doesn't matter. It's what they believe. People like Hillary Clinton believes, for example, according to my source, hey, look, she can change things through, shall we say, unconventional means. And when I say spells, if you will, think of witchcraft, think of Wicca, think of alternative
No.
things.
It's on record she does witchcraft. That came out when the first year they were in office. Tony Blair worships Lucifer. That's mainstream news. Francois Mitterrand. That's what I'm telling you, is that I've been to Bohemian Grove. For a regular person, it's a cheesy play. Those old men were in religious rapture. These people are devil worshipers. Look at the guy that killed his mom, his grandma with the hammer and then shot the firefighters. Turns out he was a devil worshiper. They probably gave him orders. We're dealing with a cult of devil worshipers. And you're saying the DHS knows that?
Absolutely, and know it, and they said watch for it to expand. And
hold on, I got to hear about the devil worship angle. Stay there. Final segment. We're just taking him the whole hour. And again, that petition's up there to make the White House a gun-free zone, to make the president turn in his guns, and that pig Dianne Feinstein, that maggot, that self-propelled demon of hell. We'll be right back.
What's better than Mountain House freeze-dried food?
Okay, about an hour ago, we launched the petition at Infowars.com at the White House. And if people say, oh, they'll get me if I sign a petition, you just go sign up with an email to verify, and then you can get on the petition. You can even set up another email if you want. I mean, if you won't even do a petition to get attention to this, we're done. But it doesn't matter. We've done pretty good in an hour. It's 652 petitions. We need 24,348 for the president to lie. He's sworn to respond to these, but they have him with hundreds of thousands for secession, close to 100,000 now to deport Piers Morgan. It doesn't matter. Once it gets media attention, everyone goes, wait, the politicians all have armed guards? Why can't our kids? So we demand Obama issue executive order making White House, federal buildings, and events gun-free zones. I'm going to send this out at Real Alex Jones on Twitter here in just a moment. Please retweet this immediately and go to Infowars.com. And one quick announcement. It's out. It just got here on the trucks about 2 hours ago. The new first issue of 2013. We have an article in there predicting that 2012 wouldn't be the end of the world, but giving the real threats to the planet. It is now out and now shipping to you. You can subscribe, or you can buy them in bulk in groups of 10 up to 100 and give them to people. 60-page glossy color mag, 2013, the year America dies, ? And we break down how this is the total takeover on the Second Amendment, the police state, everything. You want to wake somebody up? This is the magazine to buy in bulk, just for the one cover story article. We go over Europe conquered, now America's turn, Second Amendment in crosshairs, NDAA justification for tyranny, re-education camps for dissidents, Obamacare, designed to bankrupt America, Big Brother becoming pervasive, NSA spying no longer secret, foreign policy backing terrorists, more regime change, the TSA occupies the streets, the ERA, the era of drones, 2013, collapse or rebirth. Again, and then we get into 10 reasons why it's not the end of the world as we know it, but the real threats. It's just such an important magazine. Best issue yet. Second Amendment, you name it, crossword puzzles, Frida's amazing art. It is the new issue, 2013, the year America dies. Go to InfoWarsStore.com to see the new cover. Pretty powerful cover. Okay, we're almost out of time. Look. I try to be calm here, ladies and gentlemen. They're introducing the legislation to ban physically 900 guns, make you turn them in. The rest of the guns, you've got to go get registered with the ATF, and they decide if you can have a gun with fingerprints. That's like level 3 to get machine guns. It turns it right into a privilege. They're going to stage more shootings. That's one thing your source was saying. Look for more. No kidding. With this much hype, you'll have copycats. They're coming. You can tell the arrogance. They don't care. So we've got to get the word out. They think that we're weak. I don't think we're weak. We can turn it around, especially by flogging House Republicans. You tell a Rubio, you'll never be president, you punk. You tell all the senators, the House members, we are politically coming after you. Just like with the Realty Party, go to their meetings, get in their face, get aggressive or lose it all. And to all the idiots, we got 1 minute left. I want your Satanism comment. To all the idiots that say, well, I don't have guns, why do I care? The guns go, it all goes. It's the canary in the coal mine. Doug Hagmann, Northeast Intelligence Network, final comment on the Satanism angle.
Yeah, Alex, I was surprised as heck, and my source just told me to look at the Benghazi report. Number one, it was issued 69 days after the actual attacks. The number 69 has some sort of satanic meaning, for example. It was 39 pages long. That means basically the fix is in. But the fact of the matter is, the people we're dealing with at the highest levels of government are satanic, Luciferian, demonic people that are going that are advancing this agenda, and the agenda, of course, is total domination of the American populace. People have to understand the severity.
Absolutely. We're going to get you back on Homeland Security, US.com. Thank you so much, folks. Go sign the petition. Go sign the petition. Infowars.com. Take Obama's guns.
Thank you for listening to GCN.
Good job, Doug.